How are we doing today? Hopefully, we are doing well. All right. I wonder if any of the people that were in the discussion queue yesterday will return today to actually talk. I did say there were a few people that were there at the end of yesterday's stream sitting in the queue that I said would be like first up if they came back today, so I will keep my word on that. If those people return, they will be first up. But I mean, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Okay, yeah. So we got audio's good. Audio's good, 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 good. And then same on YouTube, Twitch. Yeah, all right, we're good. Okay. Oh, you know what I did forget to do? Shit. I mean, it's not the end of the world. It doesn't really matter. It kind of matters slightly. I forgot to set up a scene where I could I forgot to set up a scene for TikTok. Like I obviously have it for YouTube and Twitch, but I totally forgot to set up a scene for TikTok where I can like show my screen. Um in case there's like something we need to look at. I totally forgot. You're not open-minded or educated enough. It'd be like talking to a wall. Well, there's no possible way you could know that unless you do it, right? No possible way you could know unless you do it. You know what they say in the business? They say, put up or shut up. I wonder if I should lower the thing on the wall. You've said enough already? I think I've said like 2 sentences so far. Ba 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 ba. 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 All right. You know how I see it, Weber? Even if it was the case, like I debate people that are pretty bad faith sometimes. Some people that just don't want to hear anything you have to say, don't care. You could present them with anything, and it wouldn't mean anything to them. So like I know all about debating bad faith people, but I still do it, right? Because I'm not a pussy. When I see people like you come in here and say stuff like that, I get a very strong feeling deep in my chest that you might just be a bit of a pussy. That might just be the start and end of the conversation. Call those people MAGA? Not well, MAGA maybe. Yeah, okay, MAGA maybe. They're not all bad faith. Not every single one. Okay, there's plenty of good faith people that will like actually talk. Generally speaking, I would say like anyone that actually requests, like anyone that like requests to come up and actually like talk stuff out, I wouldn't call any of them bad faith. The only people that I would say, the only people that like come up and talk that I would say are bad faith are the ones that are just like they come up just to scream at you. Then obviously, but I get a lot of. I mean, you guys are here. You guys see it every day. We get a dozen people that come up and they literally all they want to do is just talk. Talk out the ideas. So I think it'd be really unfair to characterize those people as bad faith. That'd be very disingenuous. At least that's how I'd characterize it. Okay. Yeah, I really should have set up a second scene for TikTok where I could show my screen. Maybe we can just do it real quick. Can we do it real quick? You guys mind? Shit's gonna get real funky for a split second, but then we'll get it all fixed up and it'll be better. So let's say we'll call this one. Let me delete these scenes because they're pointless. Delete. And then we'll say delete. And then we'll say delete. And then I'll just edit this one. So we'll switch to this scene, which is just okay. Okay, this isn't bad. So then we'll just move screen down a little bit. The goal thing doesn't need to be here, I don't think. We'll just delete that. Get rid of that. Bring camera down a little bit, maybe to like right here. Bring this up to like right here, and then we'll just enlarge camera a little bit. Something like that. Okay, that's generally good. Flip this so it's not fucking backwards. Make the screen a little bigger. Okay. There we go. Okay, that took like 2 seconds. All right, now if we need to show something, if we end up having to like cite sources or anything during a discussion, we can bring this up. Cool, 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 cool. We did that yesterday. That the only reason I thought about it is because we did it yesterday. One of the people we were talking to wanted to go over sources for stuff, and I didn't have this scene set up, so I just read it. And then when I was watching that video back for when I was watching that back in editing later, I was like, oof. It just like feels awkward and bad to be like just reading something that you guys can't see. You know what I mean? Move camera over a little bit. Okay, there we go. Now we have a scene. If we need to read something, we can switch over so you guys can actually see it. Okay. Let's go. Somebody come up. Let me reset our camera a little bit. That's a little better. Somebody come up and talk. Try to get this a little more centered. Okay. All right. Sorry, I've been completely ignoring chat while I was doing this. What do we got? Why did all of these countries, including ours, bring the illegals at the same time? I don't know. I guess you'd want to start with providing evidence that it was like widespread across the planet. Because I doubt that it's true, at least in the way you're thinking it is. But you can always come up and talk about it. That's always an option. That's literally never not been an option for anyone. Generally, I will not turn anyone away. Anyone can come up. All right. I wonder while we're waiting for somebody to request, I wonder if there's been any recent filings in JGG. No. Let's see. Let's check Garcia's case, and then we'll check JAV. JAV's been dead for a while. There's like nothing going on in that case. What was the last thing? What was the last filing we got in JAV? I think the preliminary injunction was granted, and then it's just been dead in the water since then. They probably set the next hearing out for like a while. Let's see. They probably, unless I'm gonna be wrong and there was a filing today. Nope. Okay. Let's see. When did they set the hearing for this? It feels like it had to have been set for like a really long time out. Oh, I don't think we get an answer to that question. At least not in the most recent order. No, we don't. Okay, well. Yeah, don't get an answer to that question right now, at least. I guess we will just wait. We'll literally see the filing come through eventually, right? Like we'll watch it, or we'll see it happen. So when it happens, it happens. How long have you been a constitutional expert? I'm not. I don't see a request button. Really? People have told me that generally it's in like the bottom right of your screen, and it's like a little purple. I think people say it's like a purple-ish button that looks like maybe a person, kind of something in that ballpark. I don't know. I'm sorry if that's a dog shit representation. Let me try to. Oh, Eddie. Thank you for the heart me. Thank you guys all for the follows, the likes on the live. All appreciated. Let me see if I can go into a TikTok live on my phone real quick and see if I can, like, if I see it. Let's see. Live. Do I see the button? Wait, why the fuck does it say couldn't watch live videos on this device because you're live on another device? Okay, well, you know what? Technically that's fair. But it's also stupid. Yeah, here, hold up. Who was it that said they were trying to find the button? Because I can just invite you. Technically, I can just invite you to come up. Joseph, let's see. Can I just invite you? Oh wait, I can't. What the fuck? Joseph, why can't I invite you? What's up with that? What up? Let me see if I can. Joseph. Oh yeah, I just can't invite you in particular. There's like hundreds of people that are in the live that I can invite, but for some reason I can't invite you specifically. I wonder, did you get your Did you get your multi-guest privileges taken away? Did you go into someone else's live and talk immense amount of shit and get your stuff taken away? Is that what happened? That very like rarely ever happens where like I can't invite a particular person, but I've never gotten an explanation for why that is. I wonder if it's because those people have gotten their access taken away. I wonder if that's why. Did you get your access taken? Were you being too mean to people? Oh no. Trump is destroying more than the constitutional order? I mean, yeah, I guess there's arguments. Yeah, there's arguments you can make in other regards, but there's arguments you can make in like other regards, but that's I don't care. Like you can say destroying the. I could change the title to destroying the economy, but I don't. It's not that I don't care. Oh fuck! How do I work? It's not that I don't care about the economy because I do. It's more so that I don't want to argue it, or like I just don't care enough about it to argue it. So I don't know, something like that. Somewhere in that ballpark. Like I don't care about the economic arguments. I'll still do them. People like I'll never like I never turn people down when they bring it up. I'm like, oh yeah, what about the economy? I'm like, all right, here we go. Let's do it. I won't turn down the economic debate, but I'm not gonna push it. I'm not gonna like force people into talking about that. And like I don't really care. I mean, I do. I want to have a good economy. It's just not my thing. It's not my thing. It's not my thing. Why is it? How come yesterday? There might be a very good explanation to this, or there might be no explanation to this. How come yesterday when we were at like 100 viewers in the live yesterday, but we had like 10 requesters out of those 100, like people to come up and talk. But today we've got 167 viewers right now and 0 requesters. Why is it yesterday that all the Republicans were here wanting to fight, but then today it's just all? Well, I guess that from what I've seen in chat, the people that are here today is a combination of people that agree with me, and I appreciate you guys not requesting to come talk. The people that agree with me, I appreciate that. And then people that disagree with me, but they'd rather just insult me in the chat instead of talk because they are pussies. Mostly that. Because you won't even answer chat. I'm not gonna fucking have a debate with you in chat. If you want to actually talk out issues, request to talk. Like, request to come up. Because y'all don't want to talk? I mean, I have said multiple times that I do. If I say I want to talk, why don't you want to talk to me? And then your argument is because you don't want to talk. I'm like, okay, well then you're just telling me you're a pussy. That's it. You can't read. I'm saying you can't have a substantive conversation through chat. Chat is built for either praise or insults. Those are the only two things that work. By the way, there was a guy that said he wanted to come talk. I saw someone say, I'll talk, but then never came up or never requested. It was you. Magikarp Lover. Magikarp Lover. Click the request button, bro. Do it. Click the button. I think it's somewhere in the bottom right corner, I think. I believe. But I also don't really go on other people's lives, so I don't know for sure. Apparently, from what I've been told by chat previously, there's a purple button or a purple-ish button somewhere in like the bottom right-ish of the screen that looks like a person. I think. That's what I've been told, but I don't actually know if that's true. I don't actually know if that's true for sure. I only have heard that from my sources. Maybe I can just invite you. Sometimes that. Oh, you did fucking W. Was my description even like close to accurate? Magikarp.
Oh, was that?
Was my description of what the request button looked like, was I even like close to right?
Yeah. It's like
Okay.
it's like two people sitting next to each other, kind of.
Sick. I've never seen it. That's what people say. All right, what do you want to talk about?
I don't know. I mean, I've never really done one of these, but I'm always down to preach why my side is justified and right in what they're doing. I will say though, this is my first political term that I have definitively put myself into the Republican Party, though.
Okay. All right. What do you think your
So
side?
you wanted, so you wanted, so so I understand then that you would have wanted Kamala Harris to have won this past.
Mm, hmm. All right. Let me phrase it like this: once it was decided, and once it was confirmed and locked in that the two options were Trump and Kamala, yes. Prior, no. I would have. There's 2 dozen people I would have put up into the that I would have rather have had on the Democratic ticket than her.
Okay, and I'll even like kind of be devil's advocate. Like I've been supportive of people like Bernie Sanders, Obama when he was there. Like there are people who there are ideologies that I follow. Certain ideologies, healthcare, school care, and such. The reason why I was so diehard about Trump, though, is because I do genuinely believe that our America in which we have been brought up, to preface, I am only 25 years old. So I'm not like a 40-year-old man talking like I was here for like Vietnam, Desert Storm, or anything. But this is just me in my 25 years. America has gone down, and I will 100% say that everything with China is 100% an issue that has been a thing before Trump was even in office, even a word. Even when I was little, I would always say, "Oh, why does this toy say made in China?" And my grandfather would always be like, "Oh, damn Chinese," and he would always do the, thing of, "Oh, it's the Chinese." But point being, I think it's about time that our country did get out from underneath their thumb. And I think that the so-called, I'm air quotating, trade wars is one of the greatest things that should prove to the other side that Trump does know what he's doing.
You're saying assuming it and we end up getting good outcomes from it.
I would say that we have already gotten great outcomes from it.
What would some of those be?
For one, we have already talked about lowering our tariffs with China. I believe that they're at like 20%, 10% from the 145 that they were at. So they were brought down. We opened up what $600 billion trade deal with Syria just recently, and not to mention all the things he's been doing in the Middle East, which has greatly helped the economy.
So
And we
wait,
actually
real quick, your logic on the China tariffs is that it was a good thing that Trump put high tariffs on them so that later on he could lower those tariffs that he put on them.
Oh yeah, 100%, because that's how that works. You need to, if we're the ones who's buying, and like, okay, so if you're a business, and let's say I'm another business, but I need something that your business has in order for my business to work, it would make sense that I continue to purchase from you. And the day that I'm like, all right, I'm not going to unless the price goes down, and then also I'm going to charge you extra for selling my stuff in the meantime, that's where negotiations open up. And that's now why we're at the position to where they did talk in Geneva and things that,
Oh, you just cut off. Oh, you're back.
sorry.
No, you're good. Okay. So to be clear, I just want to make sure we're both on the same page. Okay, so I still am not entirely sure I understand your logic about it's a like the idea that it is a good thing to put 145% tariff on China so that later on you could drop it to a 30% tariff, which, to be clear, accomplishes nothing. There's nothing on the back end there that you're gaining from doing that. Secondly, he didn't necessarily drop the tariffs all the way off. He paused them, and then the 30% that we have now is there in the interim while the original 145 is paused. The idea being that maybe we could work something out in that 90 days where that 145 would never have to come back. My guess would be it's never going to come back regardless of whether or not we get a deal because people on both sides of the aisle hated that so much. So even if in these 90 days Trump gets no deal with China, I would assert pretty heavily that we're probably not, that 145 is just probably not coming back regardless. Um, I guess I'd be interested to hear you just articulate why, maybe what, because I have different I put forth different arguments when it comes to China, who I actually half agree with you on that we need it would be wise for us to be a little bit more adversarial with them in certain regards. Um, when it comes to some things, and we'll get into the parsing that out soon.
Mhm.
So I'd say for now, if we're gonna have the economic tariffs are good argument, I would say let's just stick to China specifically for now, not the whole
Because
world.
I would agree with you that the whole tariff thing is only for China. The other countries being in it is only because we can't just directly go after China. But I would agree that the only reason why these tariff wars are a thing is only because of our dispute with China alone.
Okay. So then, yeah, let's just do the China thing. Okay, good. I just wanted to separate that out because I have totally different arguments for the other. Like, I think tariffing Australia at all is fucking brain dead, but tariffing China in some ways can be good. Then I will follow up with saying I still think the way it was done was bad and dumb. So then, just give me your argument for why the tariff strategy against China so far is a good thing.
Well, it's just so hard so our point of reference is also pretty difficult because we're referencing a lot of different people that are nothing like Trump. Whether or not you like Trump or you think he's a good president or not, if you're going to look at him in a completely unbiased way, you still see him as night and day towards any other president that we've had. He does not act like a regular president that we've ever had. So therefore, you will get a lot of actions that are not your normal, this is how a president talks, walks, and acts. So therefore, you're going to get some pretty harsh negotiations for countries and such that we have an issue with. He's negotiating on it's basically like hiring a lawyer. You know, we hired this dude to dispute our point to these countries. But instead of him backing down, being all like meek and everything, he actually used his point of leverage, which is how big of a player America is in the global economy. But even in Kyrgyzstan, the only reason I'm using Kyrgyzstan is because I have personal friends here. So this is the only reason why I'm using this as a reference. But in Kyrgyzstan, they have a currency called Som. And that is how they purchase things. Like if I was to purchase from you, like a piece of gum, I would give you like 5 Som. But if I wanted to purchase a house, they use the American dollar. They actually use the American dollar for all important purchases in Kyrgyzstan. So if the American dollar were to collapse because the tariff war has now made it to where America is now not getting any imports or exports and everything is all screwed, the American dollar falling would not just hurt America. It would hurt countries all around the world that uses the American dollar. So therefore, it quite literally is in everyone's best interest when America, who is the biggest player, when they go, hey, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to raise all the tariffs until everyone gets in line because we currently are paying the global maximum for everything. And that's not even like a right versus left argument. It's like that quite literally is not right, that we are paying the most out of everyone. So he decided to do something about it, mainly to get towards China because they are also the biggest player. But that's how it happens. You need to put a huge, piece in the negotiation. You can't just put this, oh, we'll raise it by like 5%, because what is China going to do? They're going to raise it 5%. When you go up to like a deal for a car, for example, they're not going to give you $1,000 over MSRP. They're going to put you all the way to the roof, and then you talk down. It's just a really harsh negotiation.
All right. Look, I let you filibuster for a really fucking long time. All right, here, look, we have to stay on topic. I'm going to ask again because I asked you a question that you didn't answer at all. Why is Trump's tariff strategy against China good for the U.S.? What are we going to gain from his tariff strategy? What do we? I guess answer in 2 parts. What do we want to gain from our negotiations with China, and then how is Trump's tariff policy going to further that objective?
Okay, well, they do definitely have things that we need. They do have resources that we need, that we understand that we need. So there must still be trade between the 2 countries. So with that being said, it will still continue, but we're not going to be paying the same price that we're going to pay. So with that being said, we're also trying to kind of bring ourselves into our own country and manufacture on our own grounds and be more self-sufficient.
Okay,
So
so you
if
want
we,
to, so you
if
just
we break ties,
let's go point by point. So I was waiting to hear something. So the first thing is you think that one of our objectives should be to bring back some manufacturing to America that China does for us right now, as it
yes,
stands. Okay, if it were the case that that was a main goal of ours, that was something we really really wanted, how does I putting a really high tariff on China would actually go to that? It would, in a way, it would be at least pushing in that direction of like, look, we want to make we want some of these things to be made here. We're kind of sick of just having you, China, export fucking everything to us. We're tired of that, so we're gonna put a humongous tariff on you to force American companies to bring production here because the
it makes
goal
sense.
the goal would be to make it so fucking unbearably expensive to bring in stuff from China. If you're Apple, a super high tariff, the goal would be to make it so fucking expensive to manufacture iPhones in America or in China and then import them here that you're just like, fuck it, we're just gonna make them here. That would be the goal, right?
Yeah.
And that's what you're saying we should want or do want. If
Yes.
that's the case, you cannot possibly take the same stance you took at the beginning of our conversation. At the beginning of our conversation, you said it was a good thing that Trump lowered the tariffs now. That he just lowered them. You think that's good, but you also want manufacturing brought back here. Those two things are diametrically opposed. If he's
Well,
going to
he's
lower
not.
the tariffs, then American
He's not
companies.
lowering them. Well, he's not lowering them indefinitely. He's lowering them for the 90 days, like or 60 or 90 days. I can't remember right off the top of my head, but it is a temporary hold, for sure.
So you don't want a deal to get done during this 90 days.
No, I do want a deal to get done in this 90 days, and a lowering of it is a gesture of good faith in the meantime. Because if it was a whole thing of we lowered our tariffs, but China didn't lower theirs, that would be us backing down in negotiation. It's both parties saying, all right, in these 90 days, because in reality, think about it like this: people have issues with these, big industries doing things behind the scenes and the small people being affected. So what they're doing is, while the big boys are arguing like children, they're lowering the tariffs even lower than they were prior. In this meantime, during negotiations, which is beneficial to the people in America, in China, who are being affected by these negotiations.
I want an answer to this question. What the point I'm trying to make is that you seem to be sitting on both fences of you want us to come out of this 90 days with a much better trade deal with China than we originally had, but you also want to come out of this 90 days with a high enough tariff to justify American manufacturers and American companies not wanting to export everything from China. The idea being, okay, it's too expensive to have stuff made in China now. Let's make it in America. You want both of those things, but those two things are diametrically opposed with each other. You can't have both. It's either a
Well,
good. It's either
I
a
don't think
really
that we
good
could
trade
accomplish
deal.
both.
You're saying okay. So what is it? Do you want the manufacturing or do you want a good trade deal?
If I genuinely had to choose between the two, I'd rather things be made in America. But if that is not, because in order for that to happen, you would need a complete restructure of how America works. You would need factories to be built. There would be need time to be built. There would be people, I'm not going to say that it's 100% possible for us to completely change the infrastructure of how America works overnight. But also, if the task of this whole thing is to fix inflation, if the two options are manufacture in the United States or stop getting taxed as hard as you are for the things that we are getting, those are the only two options. And if China agrees, if China was to say, sorry, dude, screw you, we're leaving our tariffs, then that will be the case. And I trust that my president will not back down on his tariffs. And then at that point, manufacturing in America seems to be the only viable option at that point, which is why we're in this 90 days of negotiations.
Okay. That's still not an answer. Listen, there is no universe. I don't understand. I guess the part that I just cannot understand from your position is what exactly you believe the current Trump tariff. And I'm not talking about tariffs in general, because there's a tariff policy that could be implemented that actually probably would bring a lot of manufacturing back to America, to be honest with you. And that's just putting 2,000% tariffs on every fucking country. And it's like, well, if you don't want to be paying out the ass to import stuff, better start building factories, pussy. Like you just say that to every American company, but
Yeah.
then those American companies will probably up and just leave. I just want you to explain how the current day, what is today, May 15th, how Trump's May 15th tariff policy will affect manufacturing returning to the U.S. like literally at all, like in any way, even a little bit.
Because we have, so I don't under, but I've already, the tariffs right now are not just to make an outcome happen. The initial tariffs are to bring people to the table. That's what the tariffs were. It's like shaking a tree. You shake the fucking tree, everyone's gonna get the fuck out, and now everyone's like, who shook the fucking tree? And that's kind of what happened. Trump shook the tree really hard. That's why that one random penguin territory, like in no man's land, got a tariff when there was no one there. Let's blanket the whole world. Everyone comes to the table. You say your best offer, and that's what we're going to do. It's like a complete reset. That's why the stock market completely crashed. It's a complete reset. And yeah, it does suck when you're someone who's looking at the computer and seeing stocks drop and you're seeing all these things happen. But this is what happens in businesses when they need things done. Nothing can happen in transition perfectly with nothing wrong happening. So to go with this, oh, is this going to make manufacturing happen? All these trade deals? No, I don't think. I don't know what will happen. It could be either one. It could either bring more manufacturing into America. He might make it to where, no, I'm going to make it hard for American products to be made outside America. They are going to be made in America. Or he can make it like, sorry, you're going to have a massive tax on you if I'm going to be taxed from you. So like either way, I think it's going to be a win-win regardless, because we're not going to be used as much.
Okay. The whole point that I was trying to make is that the reason I asked you up top, I always do this when people want to have the tariff conversation. For one, I want to make it clear that you can't have really good trade deals with every country and then also bring back American manufacturing. That's just not how capitalism works. If it is dirt cheap to have stuff made in China and then bring it here, that is what American companies will continue to do. So you're not getting both. I just want to make sure. And you said you understood that, so that's good. Not all people do. Some people do think you're going to get both. You're not.
Yeah, it's a negotiation of either one.
Well, secondly, once you say that what you would prefer out of those two options is the manufacturing part, then I just say my whole point here is to make you look at Trump and admit that what he's trying to accomplish is not what you want him to be trying to accomplish. He's said over and over and over that what he's looking for is to force, and you kind of you touched on it, you briefly mentioned it, is to bring all these people, bring every other country to the table to get America the best trade deal possible, where there's no monetary. He talks a lot about monetary barriers, currency manipulation. It's not that those things don't happen. He just makes a humongous deal out of them when they happen, but they're not huge deals. But what he's looking for is the best trade deal. He wants a world in which we can import and export stuff to everyone without getting. I don't want to say fucked, because we're really not getting fucked. He's overblown that too, but just with the best conditions for us. If that happens, let's say he gets that, let's say he's successful. I don't think he will be, but let's say he gets god-tier trade deals with every nation across the planet. American manufacturing is not coming back. That's a goddamn guarantee at that point. At that point, it'd be more beneficial for every single American company to just have everything made everywhere else and bring it here and import it.
Well,
so then you're getting the right. That is what's happening. It's not, some stuff's made in America, but yes, most major companies just get an assload of stuff from China. That is what's happening now. Trump doesn't want that to end. You could say it does. I've heard him say over and over, like, well, we're going to bring back American manufacturing. And then here he is the next day on TV saying, like, well, I've actually done these tariffs because I want to bring China to the table and I want a better trade deal. Okay, well, if you want a better trade deal, then that's just going to incentivize, like, do you think, like, if Apple gets, or if America gets even more favorable trading conditions with China, the Apple's going to be incentivized to make a factory here? They're gonna be like, oh shit, thank you, Trump. Like, and now we're gonna import even more iPhones from China now.
No, I get what you're saying.
All right.
Completely.
So all I'm saying is that what he's doing and what you want are not the same thing. He's doing not what you want him to be doing.
Yes, but he's not doing anything that I'm against either. And what I'm saying is his whole thing with I want manufacturing in the States, which is his fallback on the trade deals not working out. If all the trade let's say that he puts up all the tariffs and not a single country comes up to his doorstep to negotiate, that would be his point of him saying, all right, manufacturing is to come back in America. We're going to be, for lack of a better term, screwed until we can figure this out. But this is what we need to do now because no one is exporting or importing any of our goods. And that's an issue, 100%. So let's say that we don't reach the agreement with China. China still does sell the majority of its goods to us. We are still its biggest buyer of its market. So let's just call
Individually, if you're talking about individual countries, I think the EU is
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the EU's tied with us with them, but I mean that's a
But
collection
yeah,
of
yeah, but we're
countries.
saying country by country. You know, like America definitely has a big pocketbook with China, and they would definitely notice if they didn't shop at their store anymore, kind of thing. So with that being said, let's say Honda, for example, Chinese company. So they no longer have Americans paying for Hondas. All right, it doesn't make sense for us to export Hondas to America. That's when we would then buy a factory in America to make Hondas to purchase and build in America. And now that will create an American job force, a union, and like there on and so forth. And that will create a job in America. And that's where it makes sense for the trade deals, if they don't work, is that eventually they will have to sell to America. If everyone was not allowed to sell to America, if there was an embargo that blocked America from buying from anyone else and our currency could not reach another country, we would definitely be screwed. I'm not saying this, but this is a made up fantasy world. Every other country would hurt just as much as us. Like they would notice that America is not in the game anymore because of how large it is. And that's not a right or left thing. We are the largest player, and it would be noticeable if we left the game. And that's what he's saying. If they don't want us to play it, we can leave it and we'll try and be self sufficient.
If it is the case, let's just say that there is no other country on the planet that could actually withstand the U.S. just completely pulling out from their market, not buying anything from them anymore. And that's a genuine fear that a lot of other countries have been expressing recently. I mean, you've seen it. Like a lot of other countries, like fuck, like America just completely leaving. You know, like the tariffs are hurting every other country on the planet as much, if not more, than us. So, I mean, and that is ultimately the gambit of doing the tariffs, right? The hope being like, well, it's going to hurt everyone else more than it'll hurt us, so they'll be more inclined to come negotiate. So, if that is the case, what would be the logic for why we don't already have 10 trade deals on the table?
Well, we've already talked to Great Britain.
Well, we've
We've
talked to a
talked
lot
to
of people.
Singapore.
We talked to a lot
No,
of
but
people
we've
all the
made
time. But
deals too.
where's the deals at?
We've dropped deals. I know that for a fact.
Which
I don't
deal?
want to. Hold on. I'm not gonna start shouting stuff at you and not knowing what I'm talking about. I want to be able to like. I know that there are.
There's proposals out the ass. There's a proposal over here and a proposal over there and a proposal everywhere. But where's the pen to paper written up deal?
Well, I mean, I would pretty much argue with that fact that we are at the points we're at least talking, which is even further than we've been at all the past 4 years. So, I
We
mean,
can renegotiate a trade deal whenever
timeline.
we want to. So that logic doesn't hold up. If we
Well,
wanted to renegotiate our trade deal with the UK, for instance, we could just do that.
yeah, but I mean, we currently are in the process of still negotiating with quite literally the entire world right now. It's not even like a man literally just hit his first 100 days, and it's like, why aren't there enough deals yet? Well, because we're still currently in the process of doing it. He's
Well, I'm
not
just
just
going based on what he said. He said he was going to start bringing in trade deals immediately, and he hasn't.
well, he's bringing a lot of people to the table, and there's definitely a lot of people like you just said, there are a lot of people or a lot of countries in this world who have definitely noticed these tariffs and are definitely up at the table. I'll argue, yeah, that Canada is kind of saying fuck you right now to America. China said fuck you as well. That's just like, I would kind of hope that these world leaders don't just bow down at the first month of getting a tariff put on them, because you also have to take into the fact, even though we're talking about our president, all these other world leaders also have their own people that also are up their ass, like, oh, you better not bow down to that tariff. Da da da. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is not going to be an overnight thing, but we are currently getting it done right now. Whereas the past 4 years, nothing has happened whatsoever.
Well, generally speaking, the only time you would do something psychotic like tariff the entire planet in order to induce trade deals is if you really, really, really like wholeheartedly believed that a trade deal that you had with someone was just not feasible. You know, it was something that just couldn't be sustained, right? Which I don't think there was any trade deal we had with any nation that was unsustainable.
Okay, but sustainable is not different, or yeah, but you're using the word sustainable. Sustainable, just because it's sustainable does not mean that it's benefiting our country. Sustainable, we can be sustainable for all we want. We've been sustainable
Yeah,
since
but
long
the
before.
argument you're fighting right now is not the argument I'm making. I'm not saying we shouldn't be going for better deals. We should always be going for better deals. We should always be trying to improve, get better, get better. And if we see an opportunity to seize a better trade deal with somebody, like Trump himself negotiated the USMCA, but if it came to be where he thought there was a way he could get a better trade deal, just through negotiations, I'm not saying, well, you know, you got the last one and it's good enough, so just don't even bother. No, always be trying to get a better and better and better deal. My point is, the only time it would seem logical, or dare I say, non-childish, to nuke every country's economy, including our own, in order to renegotiate our trade deals with fucking literally everybody, would be if you were having an unsustainable trade deal with a country. If it were the case that China was, I don't even know. Honest to God, I don't even know if there's anything China could be really doing that would be so out of bounds where it's like, okay, we're just gonna fucking nuke the economy and start fresh. Like, doesn't,
Well,
you know.
it's the import export ratio, and of which what we're getting taxed on prior to the trade war.
Oh wait, wait, no shot. You're not one of the people that think you're not. There's no fucking. You've seemed like relatively smart this whole time. There's no way you think a fucking trade imbalance is a tax on Americans.
No, no, no. Hold on. The statement that I made might have been too close together because there were two statements.
Okay.
There is an imbalance of our import and export. Period.
Yeah, a trade deficit.
There
Yeah.
is also already tariffs that were already there prior to this that might be sustainable, like what you're saying, but in the long term of us trying, because he's not just also trying to make it to where what we're buying is cheaper. He's also trying to cut our inflation while also lowering our debt. So how do you do that? You spend less. So if for every single country that we talk to, we're now spending 10% less with, now we're spending less per year per capita. So our debt is going not up every year. And so that's where sustainable, I get where you're saying, oh, it's not, or it wasn't non-sustainable. You're right. America was not plummeting. The US dollar is now worth 1 penny. I get that. But when you start all this, now we're going to be paying less by the end of it, no matter what.
When you say, just a quick check, just to make sure we're still on the same page. When you say we are gonna pay less, who are you talking about there?
As in the American, like the purchaser of imported goods.
Okay, so whatever companies bring it, you know.
Yes,
Apple,
the
if they're bringing it
purchaser.
out. Okay, just making sure. So
Yeah.
there's a couple things in there you said that must be addressed. First of all,
Okay.
you seem to show at least some concern for the national debt. You dropped that in there, that little token. And you talked about spending less to get the debt down. I would agree that if the national debt is a concern of yours, if you think that that's a big deal and we need to do something to address it, then spending less would be a good way to do that. I must then follow up and ask you, why would you not be upset about the spending bill that the Republicans are proposing right now that would increase our national debt?
Okay, this is, I guess, a point where I'm not fully educated. What are you talking about?
So currently, we're The
When you say
Republican,
currently, as in
like
today on the 15th.
every single day, yes, because it's an ongoing negotiation. They're working through the process of getting our spending bill passed. Um, the current proposal from the Republican side would increase the national debt by a fucking lot more than Biden did over his 4 years. Um, and even a lot of Biden's increase in the debt was because of the Trump Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. I guess I get that gets into a whole separate conversation depending on how you feel about taxes. Um,
Is this the no tax on tips, no tax on overtime bill?
well, so that's an interesting statement because in theory it is, but neither of those two things are in the bill. So no, technically it isn't. That's
You're talking about the 300 some page or the 30 some page. I know what you're talking about. I need to find it. Yeah.
yeah. So they talked about doing no tax on tips and no tax on overtime, but then when the proposal actually came out, neither of those two things were there. It's super weird.
Um, I don't want to get into a full blown argument on what and what is not on this bill. It might be a product of misinformation, but I 100% did see it on the bill and I saw it. I'm on my computer and I'm not about to try and screen share through my phone. But
Well, you're good. The point being,
point being, yeah,
regardless, I don't know how you could not be at least slightly upset about a bill that increases the national debt when you seem to care about the national debt.
I don't fully feel comfortable even bringing up the negotiate or like a rebuttal to that because I'm not educated enough to give you something that I would feel confident. And you catch me? Like I don't want to get into this when I don't know the bill enough to be like, no, you're wrong. I think of it like this because I don't know what you're talking about enough to reference.
Okay. So you would, without getting into specifics, no specifics here. We won't do specifics. But you would be in favor, or sorry. Well, yeah, I mean, sure, I can phrase it like this. You'd be in favor of a spending bill that would ultimately, over the course of Trump's presidency, maybe beyond, decrease the national debt. So we would want to increase our income and decrease our spending.
So we would want to increase our income and decrease our spending.
Yeah, that is how you pay off debt, right? Make more money, spend less of it, so that you have the excess to put towards the debt.
Yep, yep, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean
that's
that's
something that would be favorable to you. You'd be for that.
yes.
Okay, I want to make sure. Okay, so then when we do get a spending bill passed, because it will happen eventually, even if they are having a hard time agreeing. Eventually, we will get a spending bill passed. You should come back to stream so we can talk about the spending bill that did end up getting passed. Because ultimately, like talking about the proposals is kind of I wouldn't say a waste of time. It's good to know what they're talking about doing, but until it's passed, it doesn't really matter that much. Probably not.
Yeah, because it could go either way.
Yeah, it could change it a fuckload by the time it actually gets passed. You never know. So when one does get passed, you should swing on back.
Okay, true. But I mean, just as far as like the trade deals go, I personally see it as it's currently in the works. I see it as hopeful it's working, and I'm pretty confident in President Trump, and I'm pretty confident in my vote as well. Still,
Okay, we'll see. I guess the last question I want to ask you is, economically speaking, at the end of Trump's presidency on January 19th of 2029, sorry, where do you think our country where do you think the US will be economically on that day?
so I'm only gonna say this in ways that people will understand. 99-cent eggs, $1.30 to $2 per gallon. Bread is not crazy. Maybe milk is back to like $1.50. I see it genuinely going back to like those prices, because that's like the biggest thing that I noticed. I'm a full oldies. They used to do the 99-cent eggs. They're now closer to like $5 now. So you can see just that. So I like to call it the oldie egg theory. As the oldie egg drops, that means that our inflation is going down. So yeah, I see 99-cent eggs at the end of his term.
Okay. Do you understand why that would be two things? Okay, there's two things. Let's say eggs were 99 cents at the end of his term. Do you understand that what the state of our economy would have to be like for that to be the reality?
Well, it's just crazy because I've lived in that economy for quite a
Well, I,
time.
I know. So there's a failure to understand something going on here. Clearly, there's a difference between inflation and deflation. Prices will always inflate. That is the nature of a successful economy. Our prices will always go up. When you're 20 years from now, egg prices will be a lot more than they are right now. That is just a
So it
fact.
has to do with
of the matter.
income.
Yes. Here, for prices to go down, that would mean we would have, especially to the degree you're talking about, to get down back down to
Oh,
99
yeah.
cents,
I
the
see
amount
what
of
you're saying.
deflationary pressure our economy would have to be under would almost necessitate that we would have a disgustingly failing economy. We would
And
be
then basically we would be making less money.
a
If
lot
if
to
mine
get to
were
that point. To that point,
Right,
I mean,
right.
Jesus Christ, the state of the American economy would be just gonzo.
True.
So
Okay,
that's
well,
really bad. What you just suggested. That's what you would hope. You shouldn't hope that. That'd mean we're
okay,
fucked.
well, obviously I'm not looking for everyone to make less. That's a very semantic way of looking at it. I just clearly want it to be more accessible to get a carton of eggs. I want it to whatever the equivalent of the 99 cents is. I want it to feel like I'm paying 99
Yeah,
cents.
then
for
you'd be
eggs.
looking for stable inflation rates, and then pretty much exponential is not the humongous increases in wages.
Yeah, or so then that would basically make it to where the 1% would become, it wouldn't even become the 1% at that point, because then it would make it to where more people are making more money, which would make what that 1% be different. Because in theory, like if the national average for the minimum wage now was $75,000, which is insane, like right now, if the minimum wage for every American was to go up to $75,000, that would mean that the rich, that number would significantly change as to what would be classified as lower income, middle class, high class, 1%.
Yep. I'm sorry. I'm just kind of laughing because what you're describing is, if you walked into an economic debate and started advocating for policies like that, you would be widely considered left leaning.
I mean, like I said, like I'm not gonna claim that I know everything. I'm gonna be man enough to admit that I just learned that I made a mistake in how I was talking about the eggs and stuff. Like clearly I don't know all that I'm talking about. I'm just an American that very much likes to talk because this is what I have the right to do. You know?
Yeah, no, definitely. Okay. All right. Well, look, it was nice talking to you. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you around.
It was fun.
Yeah, great times. Have a good one. Interesting. Very interesting. Very interesting ending to that conversation. Okay. God damn, all my drinks are empty, bro. Fuck me. This is what. Okay, wait. All right. I still have some liquid left in my. I still have some blueberry pomegranate. Is that what this is? Yeah, blueberry pomegranate body armor W. Okay, look. If you're in the live right now and you're not following the stream, click the follow button. Okay, we've gained 29 followers this stream so far. By the time I get off today, I need that number to be 79. That would put us at 10K followers. If we gain 79 today, that'll put us at 10K. Pretty fucking sick. Also, I'm gonna pin the gift goal. Eddie sent a heart me. I appreciate that, Eddie. Okay, let's get the next speaker. Let's go get a new person. All right, I gotta not let the conversations get that long, by the way. That was too long. That was like 40 minutes. That's too much. And we gotta stay like way more on topic. We gotta stay like fucking laser focused on the topic at hand. When we get off into the weeds like that, it just gets gnarly. I mean, at least he's stuck on the economy. At least he's stuck there. It wasn't like, I've had some conversations that have like started in the economy and ended up in like fucking La La Land. Okay, well, that person joined and then instantly left. Okay, next. Oh. Hey, welcome back.
Yo, what's going on? How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. I just wanted to say, like, so last time we spoke, I brought up some probably like way too deep topics. I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of rambling a little, but it was just funny because as soon as I hopped off, you had a guest that like personified every point I made. Like he threw out all the context when it came to one thing, and then on the next thing, he like I don't know, he did everything I was talking to you about, asking you about, in the very next conversation, and I was just laughing my ass
Fair enough.
off.
Yeah, yeah. I do notice that sometimes I'll have people that like at least agree with me in part come up and be like, "Isn't it really annoying when conservatives do this thing?" And we're like, "Yeah, it's super annoying." And then I'll have the next guest up and they do exactly this. I was like, "Damn, that's crazy."
No, actually, bro, the foreshadowing. But I can't get over the fact that I guess now Republicans are. I've seen it. Maybe I shouldn't say Republicans. That's too generalizing. But maybe just people who are Trump favorable, right? Like those people, especially on Twitter, and I just see the most ridiculous claims. Like I saw somebody say that gas was 197, and then I saw somebody else say like, oh, eggs are down like below $1. I'm like, where are you guys? Where is this happening? I don't see this. when I go to Publix, when I go to Target, Kroger, all these, I do not see these prices, guys. When does it trickle down to my community?
Yeah. I've noticed like a lot of it. There's two like phenomena that go on, right? Where at least on I'll say one side of the aisle, to be polite. Where there seems to be like a fundamental misunderstanding or inability to understand cumulative inflation, like at all, or how inflation works, like what conditions you'd expect to see it come down under, which conditions you'd expect to see it go up under. So I'm getting a lot of the like, look at the inflation numbers just came out. Look, it's at 2.3%. I'm like, yeah, it fucking should be. Like, it's not a win. That's it should be. It should be down right now. And then with prices, I'll see this is another completely different phenomenon where I'll see like prices come down like 10 cents, which is like still good. Like if gas comes down 10 cents, I'm like, fucking okay, cool, based. But then they'll be like, oh yeah, look, gas fell by $2. I'm like, what the fuck? Okay, come on. Like we could say that prices are down without having to make the numbers up. Can we do that?
Yeah, that's what like the making the numbers up part is honestly the funniest because when they throw out a number that like maybe like the last guess where it's like so ridiculous that you would have to have like a severe just misunderstanding of economics to even claim that. I mean, I know everybody in the comments was like, did this guy just like claim that we have like the most severe deflation in history? What in the
Oh
world?
yeah. Where he's like, I want prices, or I want eggs to be 99 cents. I'm like, no, you don't. I promise you don't want that.
I was like, man, there's gonna be bread lines if that
Yeah,
ever
but the
happens.
problem
We're
is
gonna be
people don't understand that concept. They're like, I just want prices to go down. I'm like, no, you don't. You don't understand. You do not want prices to go down. You want your income to go up and prices to
I
stay the same or
I genuinely
be
don't
like
think
similar.
people understand what inflation is. It's like more of like a boogeyman term. They've never actually sat down to understand what the economic term is, the implications, or what inflation is tied to, like the other economic statistics that it's tied to and how they affect each other. That lack of nuance and context really leads, I believe, a lot of conservatives to say some really dumb stuff like that. And it just baffles me because even in Biden's final year, I'm pretty sure the average for inflation wasn't even that bad. It was below, it was sub 3% if I'm not incorrect, and it was pretty low. I'm pretty sure it touched like 2.4, 2.3 at its lowest. And I would consider that pretty good inflation. But now that their president is office, now they can start bragging about it, even though it's like within 0.1, 0.2% margin of what was during what it was during Biden's 2024 term.
Yeah,
So it's kind of crazy.
it's
But
kind of crazy.
how's your day been going, my man?
Pretty good. I gotta. I don't mean to push you off here, but I gotta go real quick.
No, you're good, brother.
All right. Well, thanks for coming up. And
All
I'll
right,
see
man.
you.
Thank you,
I'll see
man.
you. I'll see you around.
Yeah, see you.
All right, guys. Hold up. I gotta give me like 2 minutes. I gotta take this phone call real quick. I will be. I'll bring up the next guest in like 2 minutes. Sorry. Okay, we're back. All right, next. We shall bring up the next person. The next guest. Oh, there is no next person. There was next people until I had to. Sorry, guys. I had to hop on. I had to answer that phone call real quick. Now we are at 44 followers gained. What did I say? 78 was the amount we needed. 78. Click the follow button. Let's see where we're at. How many followers do we have? 9,972. Oh, we only need 28 more. Fucking sick, bro. All right. Well, whoever it was that was in the queue. Sorry, I had to take a phone call. But if you re-request, I will accept you real quick. My bad. My bad. But if you re-request, I'll grab you up real quick. Okay. I'm not still recording, am I? Good. Sometimes basically whenever like a guest comes up, I always like click record, start my recording. So what's up, Kate? Miso, thank you for the follow. And Kemp, thank you for the follow. Whenever people come up, I always click the start recording. So if it ends up being an interesting conversation, I can post it on YouTube. And sometimes I'll forget. I'll end up forgetting to stop the recording for like 2 hours, and it's fucking annoying. Pizza boy, hello. I'm glad you.
What's up, man?
I'm glad you returned.
Yes, sir. I was here for that insufferable. Oops, sorry, 1 second. That insufferable conversation you had the other day at the end of your live.
Which one? I don't remember.
Yeah.
They're all insufferable. No, I'm kidding. I just don't know which one you're talking about.
I think his name was Too Slick, but anyway, he. Oh, okay. Yeah, he was. I don't know. I think he just didn't seem like he really wanted to have a good discussion with you. But,
yeah, all too common.
But anyway, man. Yeah. But anyway, dude, I looked at your channel after yesterday's live, and you've been doing good, dude. So, congratulations on all your success so far. It doesn't look like you started too long ago, so you've been doing pretty good for yourself.
Couple weeks, yeah.
Yeah, man. Good for you. What's your background?
I have no background. No, I'm kidding. No, I have no relevant background. I'm a fucking nerd, and I just really love reading. So I just and I developed a fucking unhealthy. Nah, not unhealthy. That's too self-deprecating. I just got obsessed with reading law shit.
Okay. I didn't know if you had a Juris Doctorate.
I read one Supreme Court case, and I got fucking obsessed, and I never stopped. No, but background-wise, I mean, nothing special. I was in high school, joined the Navy, did my time. Now I'm in college. That's it.
Well, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Right on. Well, anyway, yeah, I mean, I want to know more about, how you believe that Trump is destroying the constitutional order. But I guess I first have to get you to define what you consider the constitutional order.
Generally speaking, the way I view the constitutional order is the idea that, for one, we have a constitution that governs everything that we do, is the supreme law, and that we all understand, theoretically, I have to throw that in there, theoretically, the citizenry and the government alike understand that we have to abide by it, regardless of how we feel about it. And I think that Trump is ushering in a new era that will destroy that, where he himself seems to be convinced, and he seems to have convinced a lot of his followers, that if you hate something enough, you don't have to abide by it. If you just really hate the fact that non-citizens have due process rights, you can just ignore that part.
Okay. Can you, I guess, so look, I'll do full disclosure. I did vote for Donald Trump, and a lot of it had to do with, the other side, not liking their policies and the way that things have been done, and basically how that party's been shifting. But, without going, too far into that, we can focus on Trump. What things can you point to, or do you point to specifically, that kind of supports that statement that he's basically given that sentiment that you can just ignore whatever it is that you strongly disagree with?
Well, for starters, one of the biggest things I point to, I know this isn't super indicative of, like, this isn't like direct evidence, but I feel like it's telling. It goes to mental state, really. Every single time a district or circuit court rules against him, the instant response is to just trash them and just be like, oh, the fucking these woke left fucking communist judges, like I fucking hate them, we should impeach them. That, like, for that to be your go-to every single time you get ruled against, regardless of how arbitrary the case was to begin with, it could have been the most fucking obviously unconstitutional act in the universe. But if you get ruled against, like, that, they must be some radical left communist activist judge, like all the fucking adjectives. That, to me, that really goes to mental state. It's like, oh, so you have zero respect for the judiciary at all, huh? Secondly, if we want to point to actions that are clearly unconstitutional, that now, what I will preface, this isn't to say that Trump is the only president that has ever done anything unconstitutional and then been ruled against. That's like, obviously that isn't the case. But I will say, I don't know if I've ever necessarily seen a president so openly, like, in your face about the constitutional violations, right? Like every like, I mean, Biden got ruled against twice. Well, I mean, he got ruled against a lot, but the two big cases everyone loves to talk about is the student loan forgiveness and then the OSHA vaccine mandates. People love talking about those. Like, hey, look, this is Biden doing something unconstitutional or trying to. And then my response is always, okay, well, SCOTUS shot it down and he fucked right off. Like, that's how it should be. Trump, no, gets ruled against, does it again. The best example, my favorite example, maybe it's not the best, but it is my favorite, I fucking love it, is the executive orders targeting law firms. He hit Perkins Coie with that first one and got ruled against almost immediately because it's very blatantly unconstitutional. And then, like, the next day issued another one against a different law firm, copy and paste, just replace the name of the firm. And it's like, okay, so that just tells me, that's, again, goes to state of mind. You just don't care. You don't give a shit.
Yeah. So what? I'll be honest with you. I'm not too familiar with the executive orders against the law firms. Can you tell me the substance of those? Basically, what he did, why he did it?
You want to know what the executive orders were doing, or what he was, like, ruled against on like the merits of why he was ruled against? Okay.
What was it directed towards him? Then what got shot down?
So one of the things you asked was why he was doing it. I'm gonna skip the motivations part because he has purported motivations, and then he has, like, what is almost certainly his real motivation. In terms of what those executive orders would have done, it was ultimately, the ultimate outcome that he was seeking with those was to destroy these firms economically, kind of remove their viability as a profitable law firm so that they would just kind of go away. At least with the first one, I don't know if they sort of kind of slightly evolved over time because he's issued a shitload of them now. Well, a shitload being like 3 or 4, but he's issued multiple and they've slightly evolved. But at least with the first one, it would have the two big, or I guess 3 big things. Is, for one, it would have instantly revoked the security clearances of every employee at the firm. Secondly, I guess I should point out, you said you're a lawyer, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't need to tell you why that's actually a big deal for a law firm of that size. It would be a fucking huge deal to have all of your employees' clearances revoked, which you surely understand. Secondly, would have banned them from government buildings, the employees of the firm. And then thirdly, would have made it to where if you were a government contractor who used Perkins Coie as your representation, the government would be forced to seek to terminate your contracts with them. That line of it, at least, was probably my biggest gripe, because that stands out to me as very heavily stands out to me as a big ol' Sixth Amendment violation. The idea that you're gonna say, hey, I know you bid this contract, and you put forth the best bid, and we picked you, but we see here that you used Perkins Coie, that law firm. And you'd be like, well, yeah, I mean, those are my lawyers. And you'd be like, sorry, buddy, we're gonna have to cancel your contract that you earned. I'm like, okay, that stands out to me as a pretty gnarly Sixth Amendment violation, and the judges that reviewed that case agreed.
Yeah, I'll have to defer to you on that because I haven't read that. I mainly focus on insurance litigation. So, like, I have to read. I don't have time to, like, get into everything specifically. So I'll defer to you on that, and I'll say that even so, I just don't see. I don't see the argument that any action taken that is necessarily unconstitutional threatens the unconstitutional order when we have checks and balances that are specifically designed to counter those. Like, and then you'd have to show me that basically ignored the court decisions and basically gone past them. So is there any instances where he hasn't abided by the court orders?
Well, in that particular case, he was ruled against on the basis of an executive order like that being unconstitutional for First Amendment and Ninth Amendment Sixth Amendment reasons, and then instantly issued the same exact executive order, a direct copy and paste, just against a different firm. He was like, okay, because his logic, and this is where we get into like weird territory, because like legally was he wrong? Kind of no, because the scope of that case was just whether or not this order against Perkins Coie was constitutional, and the ruling was no, this order against Perkins Coie is not constitutional. And so Trump took that as, okay, what if I just did that order against this other firm? And it's like, well, like legally, are you? Hold up, 1 second. Mailman walked by the house. Dogs didn't like it. Okay. So as I was saying, legally, technically, he's kind of sort of right. Like, yeah, it wasn't ruled that you can never do these things ever, but it was ruled that they were unconstitutional. And then he just did it against a different firm, which is like a loophole. But it's not necessarily what I'm saying in that case isn't like, oh, look, he violated a court order, because technically he didn't. What I'm saying is that's just a mindset issue. It's like, okay, I know what I'm doing is unconstitutional, but legally, no one told me I can't do it. But I do know it's unconstitutional because I have been told. It's like it kind of harkens back to the 2020 election was stolen shit, right? It kind of harkens back to that for me, where he ordered every single person in his entire government that could do an investigation into the election to do one, and they all came back to him and said that it wasn't stolen, or that there was no evidence that it was stolen, and then he kept going on TV saying that it was stolen. It's the idea of like, if you are told something by a person you have no reason not to trust, a person honestly you should be deferring to their opinion on this. If you're told something and you're just like, yeah, but that doesn't fit the way I want it to be, so I'm just gonna go against it. That just goes to mindset for me. So in this case, when a judge tells you like, bro, come on, man, this is obviously unconstitutional, and then the next day you do it again, it's like, okay, so you don't care. That's what that's the message I take. Okay, you don't care.
Well, do you know for certain that each executive order was basically the copy and paste verbatim, or were there allegations?
At least the first two were the first two. Well, the allegations wouldn't matter, right? If it's unconstitutional.
Oh yeah, not an allegation, but like the substance of the order and the basis for the order, But
again, it's the same, because it harkens back to the same thing. The basis, even if you had what you viewed as a really good reason to do it, you can't just violate. Like it goes back to like the due process violations of like, oh, but this guy was a fucking gang member. I don't give a shit. It doesn't matter how bad you think he is. That doesn't just wipe your Fifth Amendment rights off the map. That's not how that works.
Well, what if that executive order was specifically crafted to comply with the court opinion in the first order?
Well, the first two weren't, because the first two actually were like copy pastes. So at least the first two weren't.
All right. And were they filed at the same time, or was one ruled on
a few days later? So
he filed the second one,
so
or
he got ruled. He got ruled against, and then signed the other executive order a couple days after. Which again, technically not illegal, because
he actually issued the other executive order
afterwards, after he was already ruled against. But again, I'm trying to
determine the timing of the order.
I need to be ultra clear. The reason he probably thought that it was okay to do that is because the scope of the judge's order in the first case wasn't that you can never use these kinds of orders ever. It was just, you can't use this order against this firm because it is unconstitutional. So in his head, it's like, oh, well, you said I can't use it against them. Okay, so this one's voided, but I can use it against this guy. Which is not good. And then I do want to address a point.
Okay. All right.
I want to address something you said that could technically be a good point, but I don't think it works here. I don't think technically a president, like it's not my belief that a president doing something unconstitutional necessarily means that they are destroying the constitutional order. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying when you convince a whole sect of the population that you can do these things and walk away from it scot-free and it's okay to do them. Like, I couldn't even tell you, I couldn't even begin to express to you the amount of people that I have come up and talk to me on a daily basis that wholeheartedly believe that, like, if the government accuses you of something, you aren't owed due process. Like, well, the government said you're in a gang, so I mean, why would you even have due process rights? I'm like, bro, Jesus fucking Christ. And then I'll ask, like, why do you believe that? I'm like, well, I mean, that's what Pam Bondi's been saying on TV. I'm like, okay, so, like, this administration has convinced people that, like, we just don't have to follow the Constitution if we really, really don't want to. That's what's destroying it, because then that won't go away. That doesn't leave when Trump leaves. The mindset of, if I really hate one of these amendments, I just don't have to, I can ignore it if I really hate it. That mindset won't go away when he does.
Okay. I guess, I mean, people are allowed to have their opinions on the law. People are allowed to have their interpretations of the law. And people, like, Trump is allowed to test the outer limits of the executive branch, just like Biden did, just like Obama did, just like every president does. So I guess, when it comes to how people interpret the Constitution, I don't think that you can make the argument that I guess presidents aren't allowed to tell the public how they believe the Constitution should be interpreted. And I guess I'm just not seeing how, like, if the checks and balances are the checks and balances, like, what's going to happen? Like, what's the harm in people seeing things Trump's way if the constitutional order is already the constitutional order? Like, the Supreme Court's always going to strike down anything. They're the final arbiter of constitutional interpretation, right? Even if Congress passes something, if it goes against the Constitution as amended, then even legislation will get struck down by the Supreme Court.
I agree with you, but none of that matters if the executive chooses to ignore it. Like, you're right in that SCOTUS, it is...
Well, he
like,
can't ignore it, he'll be impeached.
Okay, well, see, that's where your huge misunderstanding is. The Republicans in Congress would be needed to impeach him. You'd have to get Republican support. And the Republicans would fucking hang themselves before they voted to impeach Trump.
Well, yeah, well, not all of them, but I think right now. But anyway, if it got bad enough, obviously in the next election cycle, the constitutional process is that most likely, if he had an unfavorable opinion, right, the people vote and say, we don't like this Congress, we're going to put more Democrats in, and we're going to start repealing some of the things that the Republican Congress has put into place, and then we're going to vote to impeach Donald Trump. And that's just the process. And otherwise, you're just arguing with the way that the people chose to vote because they do not like how things have been going. And that's people's right as well. And our Constitution was founded on our government representing our people. So I guess what I'm saying is, like, people voted for Trump because they agree with him and they want him to do a certain job. And it's his duty to deliver on his promises. And so far, I mean, he's been pretty consistent in these first 100 days, like, at least trying what he said that he was going to do. And at least, whether or not he's going about it the most effective way, the most, I guess, politically correct way is completely different. He is kind of meeting the expectations of the people who voted for him.
Okay. I don't know how I want to go about this because I don't want to be mean, but you are a lawyer. And it sounds like the argument you're getting towards is that as long as he's not impeached, as long as he's got a big enough bear grip on the nuts of Republican congressmen, that violating the Constitution means nothing technically, because the remedy is impeachment, which is true. The remedy for
no, I mean, I'm not saying he should. Well, can you point to any, like, can you point to any constitutional violation?
Can I point
he hasn't
to a
defied any
constitutional
court
violation?
orders. He's complying with the courts.
Is he complying with the courts? That the ruling in JGG versus Trump, he doesn't feel very compliant with the ruling in JGG.
Can you give me the specifics of that real quick, just so I can comment on it?
The ruling in JGG was SCOTUS saying that deporting people without due process is unconstitutional, and that the Trump administration must give people
Yeah. So
adequate
he's
time.
providing them trials now.
Do you understand? No, he's not. So he's finding cute little fucking loopholes to so in the ruling of JGG, specifically laid out clear as day, is that one of the elements must be that you give people adequate time to file. They made it very clear that the only way you can contest your designation as an alien enemy was via a habeas petition. And I don't really know if anyone had an issue with that. It's like, okay, fine, yeah, habeas petitions, that's fine, that's great, that works. But one of the things laid out very clearly is like if this is how it's gonna be, you must give these people adequate time to file. You're a fucking lawyer again, so you should know adequate time to file is not 12 to 24 hours, which is what Trump ended up deciding. He was like, yeah, 12 to 24, that'll work, that'll be good. Yeah, obviously the fuck it's not. So he's not outright, like he's not a humongous idiot. He's not gonna be like, actually, SCOTUS, fuck you, I'm gonna do what I want. He's just like, okay, SCOTUS, you want me to give him adequate time? Okay, 12 hours. He's just cute. He's cute with it because he's a fucking dickhead.
Well, did they specify what notice they have to have in the order?
They said reasonable notice, and again, like if you as an attorney are going to argue that 12 to 24 hours is reasonable notice to obtain a lawyer and then file a petition, I don't know what I could do with you.
I would say if I was making the rule, I would give them the minimum would be 30 days, because I think that's what the federal rules of civil procedure are. That's what I would defer to. And usually pro se plaintiffs, like an illegal immigrant, you'd probably give them more like 45 to 60 days. A lawyer, obviously, you can give as little as 7 days to. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that that's necessarily right, but if it wasn't specified in the order, like Trump's not a lawyer, and he's relying on his lawyers. So, but anyway, I think that case that you're referring to is the Alien Enemies Act, correct?
Well, I mean, that's the law. That's the law. That's the law invoked. Yeah.
Okay. So the Alien Enemies Act doesn't have notice requirements, and it doesn't specify anything to do with due process. So, but obviously, I believe briefly reading through it, I think that the Supreme Court applied the 14th Amendment and said, well, Alien Enemies Act was passed before the 14th Amendment, but now it has to be read with the 14th Amendment, or sorry, the 6th Amendment. Sorry. No, I'm getting my things.
14th, the fifth
but
by
anyway,
way of the 14th.
The right to trial. Did they address the Sixth Amendment in there, or is it the Fifth Amendment?
Well, no, because I mean, ultimately, it's immigration stuff is civil, so you don't have Sixth Amendment rights, really.
Okay. Well, I don't see. I feel like they should. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just thinking they should have done that, because when it comes to people entering the country illegally, that's a misdemeanor, which would fall under the penal codes. So I would think that Sixth Amendment would apply as well. But so there's the right to notice, right? There's a right to a trial. But the Alien Enemies Act, which was passed by some of our founding people like John Adams, I think that's the right person. I mean, it didn't have any of those notice requirements. So I think that the administration's within their rights to test it. And now that the court's telling them they have to do it, like, okay, well, we'll give them 2 days. And if the court comes back and says, no, it's got to be more than 2 days, it didn't specify what reasonable notices. I mean, reasonable notice, the reasonable standard differs in every single court in the United States, right? So there's not a set standard. It's a case-by-case basis. So
sure, I could totally get on board that there's different standards for reasonableness, but I could never get on board that 12 to 24 hours to find a lawyer and then get your petition filed is even like ballparking reasonable. Like, I don't even think you're not even in the realm of reasonable at that point.
So did the court say they have to have an opportunity to get an attorney?
I'm sorry?
Did the court order say that they have to be given an attorney, or they just have to be given notice?
Well, no, they just have to be. It's the time period is between when you're notified that the Alien Enemies Act is going to be used on you, and then when you like the amount of time before you're deported, the amount of time you get to file your petition before you get booted.
Okay. All right. But there's no, they didn't say explicitly you have the right to a lawyer in this situation.
Well, I mean, no, you wouldn't. Again, it's an immigration thing, so it's gonna be a civil procedure. So you don't have the right to an attorney in those cases. So
yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, the court just needs to step in, and if they find that that's not reasonable, then that's what they need to do. There is definitely an argument that that these district courts, going on to something else, these district courts, whether or not they should have the power to enjoin the president in a nationwide injunction, there's definitely some constitutional issues there. And so, I mean, I think if you, the judges are definitely testing the constitutional process as well. So it's just, I don't know, there's a lot going on right now. And I think pointing the finger just at Trump, it's a little out. It's just not going to go with the people are just going to see it another way, just because these judges are definitely, in my opinion, stepping out of line. I mean, well, and then the law is it hasn't been tested like this either. So it's hard to blame them as well, because we've never had a situation where we've really had to deal with district court judges granting nationwide injunctions. I mean, we have in the past.
Yeah, I was about to, bro. I was about to. I'm so glad you said that, because I was about to fucking pop off on you. I was about to pop off on you so hard. I'm so glad you fucking said that. I was gonna say, there's no way you're gonna give. There's no.
It's happened before.
No, I'm saying, like, there's no way you're gonna give Trump this much deference. You're gonna give him this much room to be like, well, he's just testing the law. We don't really know, and then get on the judge's asses like, well, Congress could fix that with the snap of the fingers if they fucking wanted to, and they've put forth legislation to fix it. So they're on it. Give them, let Congress do their job too. They're fixing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, district courts, they're created by acts of Congress, right? They're not, while they are I think it's Article 3, I believe, Article 3 courts. The Constitution set up the Supreme Court. It didn't set up district courts. It gave Congress the power to create the district courts. So should district courts have the same power as the Supreme Court is a constitutional issue that, again, like a lot of these things are novel. We're like, okay, well, we've never seen it like, this issue before. This kind of stuff. I mean, this is what builds our U.S. law. Like, this is how, shit, Marbury versus Madison was pivotal in judicial review. We had the Constitution, and then it wasn't until John Marshall stood up. I don't think it was Marbury v. Madison for the specific case, but it wasn't until John Marshall stood up and declared, look, we are the final arbiter of constitutional interpretation, that people didn't start really taking the Supreme Court as seriously as they do. And I can't say that case name because it might get you flagged, but I'm
pretty sure you can say it.
The AB case.
Yeah.
That's fine. Well, it's gotten flagged on another live before, so I just don't want to do that to you. But the AB cases, right? The right to privacy cases, like those things are huge too, and that's the Supreme Court, threatening the constitutional order by doing things that they're not supposed to do. If the right to privacy is found in the prenumber of rights in the Bill of Rights, then why do you need to basically refer to the right to privacy and just instead, when you do your analyses, you go back to the Bill of Rights instead of basically creating a reference point and then attaching precedent to it. And then all you're doing is you're becoming a super legislature, right?
Yeah. So, sometimes SCOTUS SCOTUS makes shit the fuck up for sure. Like it happens. They do it. They make shit up. They made up like Trump v. United States. Where the fuck did they found presidential immunity from nothing? They just pulled it out of their ass. Okay, it happens. They do make shit up, but. That doesn't mean you could just violate shit. My issue isn't that I'm not going to argue like SCOTUS has never been wrong. They're wrong a lot, okay? But they are the final arbiters of what the law is. So when they lay the hammer down, they say this is the law. That you can't just be like, well, I really don't like that, so I'm just going to violate it because fuck you. That's not how this shit works.
Yeah, I think I think you're simplifying what Trump's doing a little bit, but I do appreciate your forum and the way that you address these arguments with people. and I'll definitely be back. I got to get back to work. But I appreciate you. I'm gonna keep following, and congratulations on all your success, man.
Well, thank you.
All right, later.
Yeah, later. Have a good one. Man, there was a big delay. I mean, he was on his phone. Like, he was talking to me on his phone, obviously. There was like a huge fucking delay. There was a fucking huge delay. That shit was infuriating. I don't know. Whenever I have those conversations with people that are like, it's not necessarily. Sometimes when people are like, out and about on their phone, and it happens sometimes when people are like in their houses on the phone. It's just when it happens, I'm just like, fuck. Because then we end up talking over each other when neither of us are trying to, and it sounds like he's interrupting me when he's not trying to, and it sounds like I'm interrupting him when I'm not trying to. It's just, it's fucking annoying. That's all it is. It's just annoying mainly because, it's annoying because it's like you unintentionally interrupt each other a lot. That's all it is. All right, listen, if you're in here right now, click the follow button. Okay, click the button. I want to say a huge thank you to Sand, to Haley for the hat, to Sand and Female Rage for the heart me's, and then Female Rage again with the rose, and then Dan with the rose and the hand heart, the first hand heart of the stream. 1 out of 25 on the hand heart goal. I'll pin that real quick, and then we're going to bring up the next guest. Next guest. TikTok Live is about as efficient as the government. Yeah, TikTok Live it has its strengths and it has its weaknesses for sure. And I think syncing is one of the biggest weaknesses of this platform. The amount of desync I get between myself and the guest sometimes is like, I want to, I get fucking pissed off. I get pissed off. There's too much sync. Very annoying. Haley! Thank you for the 3 hand hearts. Fucking back to back to back. Wait, was that 3 or 4? It was 3. Okay. Haley, thank you for the triple hand hearts. Okay, I tried to bring up this next guest and it's not letting him up. I don't know why. I can't explain it. Sometimes TikTok be doing that shit. That's another thing. Those are my 2 biggest gripes with this platform. The desync between me and the guest, that shit gets annoying. And then the when I accept a guest and it just infinitely buffers, never lets them up. Ooh, that shit pisses me off. I'm like, just let him up. Come on, let him up. The Go Dino, thank you for the rose. It's been glitchy today, has it? Yeah, I'm kind of sensing that. I'm getting a sense of that right now. Bro, I'm trying to bring up this guest too, and it's just infinitely loading. Come on. What the fuck? Let him up. Bro. Come on. Come on. It doesn't have to be like this. Let him up. Ahoy from the land of pumpkins, West Michigan. Woohoo, 300 followers. I just followed and it still says 299 followers. By the way, oh yeah. Presto Pimento, thank you for the follow on Twitch. My opinion is that when the Dems take back the Congress in the midterms, they will obviously impeach Trump and Vance and appoint someone else. I doubt it, because it's very, very unlikely that the Democrats will win back the Senate. Unless Trump does something terrible. If Trump does something horrible between now and then maybe. But it's very, very unlikely that Democrats will win the Senate. So yeah, he's probably not going to get impeached. I never really I've never thought that he's going to get impeached. I don't think he's going to. Democrats will probably win the House. That's looking very likely. And then Senate, unlikely. Probably not. Trump arresting judges and governors because they don't agree. Yeah, that's fascist. Yep. Certainly is. Felix, come on, let Felix up. Come on. You mean more horrible than what he's done? Yeah, I mean, if he does something horrific, then maybe. But even, it's very unlikely. That's all I'm trying to say. It's very unlikely. All right, shit, I didn't look at your name. Felix, what's up?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
All right, I wanted to ask why you thought Trump v. U.S. was just completely made up.
Because there's nowhere in the Constitution that they didn't actually derive it from the Constitution, at all. They just it was derived from the idea that it could be bad for the president to be criminally liable. It could cause them to think too hard about what they're gonna do.
Here, I'll try and work that out for a second so I can understand what you're saying. Do you think the president can be criminally prosecuted for exercising his core constitutional powers?
Rephrase that. Do I think he can that the president could be post Trump v. United States, or like should they be able to be?
Can they be prosecuted?
Well, no.
Why not? It's not in the Constitution.
Because of the decision in Trump v. US.
Well, before ignore that. Just
Okay,
assume
prior.
it's in the- Yeah.
Like but prior, I think that how do I phrase this? If they used they wouldn't be being prosecuted for the usage of the power. It would be the motivations for the usage of the power and then why you did it. For instance, the president has one of the core powers of the presidency is pardons. But pre-Trump v. US, I would have said that if you were caught and if it could be proven that you were issuing pardons in exchange for monetary bribes, then you should be able to be pardoned under public corruption statutes. Now that you can't be. So
Can you say that one more time? I'm sorry, I got confused by what you said.
So, for instance, one of the core powers of the president is the pardon power.
Okay.
The pardon power can be used in loads of different ways. Now, it doesn't matter how you use it. It's just like it doesn't matter because the pardon power is invoked. It's just you're not going to be able to prosecute anything having to do with it. Pre-Trump v. US, I would have said that if you were caught and if it could be proven that you were exchanging presidential pardons in exchange for like a monetary bribe, there was people sitting in white collar prison somewhere and they're like, yo, I'll give you $1 million if you pardon me, and you were pardoning those people, I would say that you should be able to be prosecuted under a public corruption statute for bribery. But now, because of Trump v. US, even if that was the exact situation, even if exactly that was happening, you're shit out of luck. You can't do anything about it.
Well, I would agree with you, but there's a very explicit part of the Constitution that also prohibits, I think it's bribery, is it treason, and other. It's the impeachment clause where it prohibits bribery, treason, and that one small thing, misdemeanors and small.
Yep, but that's the impeachment clause, and impeachment's not a conviction. I don't necessarily think it's justifiable to let a president, even if you are able to impeach and convict and remove a president, I don't think that that's enough if they're doing something that egregious. If you got elected to office and you're using the power that the American people entrusted in you to make yourself rich by taking bribes for pardons, I don't think it's enough. In my opinion, at least, I don't think it would be enough to just say, well, he's out of office now. I want you to face punishment, true punishment, like jail time punishment. And so while, yes, you could be impeached still, even with the Trump, the SCOTUS wouldn't have any ability to regulate impeachments. Yes, you could still be impeached. I don't think that's enough. But because of Trump v. US, even if you were doing something that egregious, you could be impeached, but you're not getting prosecuted. And I would want that person prosecuted.
You could still be prosecuted after you leave office.
No.
You can.
No.
You can read the Federalist Papers. I think maybe I read the wrong thing. You're prosecuted afterwards. Impeachment and removal from office only removes you from office and prohibits you from holding future office.
I understand. What you're talking about right now is I'm
afterwards.
saying because of Trump v. US, because of that decision, you would not be able to be prosecuted for those actions because they would be considered the pardon power is considered core presidential powers. So a court could not probe the motivations behind you using it. If you were Trump, let's say, I'll make the fake scenario. I say fake scenario, but I don't really believe this to be that fake in light of the Trump meme coin. But let's say it was the case that Trump was taking was taking bribes, was taking money from people in exchange for pardoning them. Let's say that was going on. And it came out to the public and Congress impeached him for it. He was impeached and convicted, removed from office. No prosecutor could come along afterwards and press bribery charges against him because you wouldn't be able to use any evidence in association with the pardon power. You wouldn't be able to inquiry why he was issuing those pardons. SCOTUS already ruled that was ultimately the holding in Trump v. US. Is not only can you not prosecute people for their usage of core presidential powers, you can't even probe into them the motivations behind the usage. You can't even say like, okay, why were you doing it?
The official act is the pardon, not the taking the bribe.
Yes, but you can't probe. That's what I'm saying. You cannot probe into the reason the pardon was given. So you could say that you could look and you could point to say like, look, he got money But then eventually, ultimately, in a court of law, you're going to have to prove, okay, you're going to have to connect those two things. You're going to have to say, okay, look, we see the money coming into your bank account, but why? What was given to prove bribery? To prove the statute, the way our bribery statutes are written, to prove it, there would have to be an exchange. But the part you couldn't bring up in court, the part you could not probe in a court, is why that pardon was given. You could say, look, I see money coming into your bank account, but you can't then use that pardon given as evidence because it was an official act.
Where's that in the decision? I don't think I remember.
That's
that
what the entire decision was about, the inability to probe official acts. That is exactly why the fucking Jesus Christ, the January 6th case was thrown out, was because of Trump v. US, because now the prosecutors in that case couldn't use evidence related to official acts. For instance, one of the biggest pieces of evidence against Trump was his conversations between him and his deputy attorney generals. Like they had those conversations, and that was a huge piece of evidence that his actions were corrupt.
Well, and even in that case, when the case got all the way up to the Supreme Court, it was a vacate and remand, so it went back to the DC Circuit, so they could
for them to determine it was remanded for them to determine if they could still continue the case without using evidence that was obtained, like without those official actions. And it went down, and Jack Smith just was like, I can't do this shit. I'm not gonna be able to prove this without that evidence.
Well, it was dismissed because there was a Trump won the election and he just left.
Because there was a huge gap, not a huge gap. There was enough of a gap of time for Jack Smith to make a decision on whether or not he wanted to continue, but he wasn't. He said he wasn't going to keep going. At that point, so much of his evidence got yoinked by that decision.
He could just official acts couldn't be prosecuted, or you can,
or because you couldn't probe the reasons behind them. So when like I said, a humongous part of his evidence was his conversations with his deputy AG. At that point, once that ruling comes down, okay, now I can't even use these conversations because it is a core power of the president to communicate with his attorney general and with his underlings, right? So I can't use any of this as evidence. So he wasn't going to move forward with that case regardless.
Do you think that was a good idea? Not the latter part, just you can't use a president's official acts to probe as to whether or not to probe their motivation for doing something,
like their conversations with people under them.
Yeah.
No, it's a terrible idea.
No, what? You don't think they can be prosecuted, or you do think they can?
Well, you said you think that was a good idea. I think that whole decision was a horrible idea.
Okay.
So I bet you Roberts regrets that shit now, right about now.
I don't think he does.
Well, I mean, he came out yesterday saying that the rule of law in America is severely under threat, and I feel no sympathy for him in that moment when he comes out and he says, like, the rule of law is we're under huge threat right now. I don't feel any sympathy for him making that statement, because the rule of law is under threat. It's your fault. Fuck you. Shut up.
Oh, those seem to be if he thought something else was going to happen, I still think he would have thought the decision was correct if Trump wasn't doing all that stuff. But just looking through the last, it's section on Article 1, Section 3 on the last paragraph, where it talks about like what happens when you're removed from office. And it says, judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than removal from office, and said, disqualification to hold or enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States, but the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to indictment, trial, judgment, and punishment according to law. Yep. So that can happen, but I don't know where you get from the decision that they can't, like a president taking a bribe in exchange for a pardon, they can be punished for taking the bribe after they leave office.
It's the evidentiary standards. It's not that you couldn't press the charges. If it were the case, let's say the same scenario that I presented earlier, right, with Trump taking bribes, right? If it were the case that came public and he was impeached and removed, it's not that no one could press charges; it's that no one would, because you definitionally speaking, you cannot meet the evidentiary requirement. Because when you press that charge and you go to court, what you will have to prove is you will have to prove the link between the money he received and the action he took. And you can't look into the motivations. You statutorily, or not statutorily now, but because of the holding in Trump v. US, you now cannot probe the motivation behind an official act. You could not ask the question, okay, I see you issued a pardon on this date to this person. Why did you do that? You can't ask that question. You can't probe that.
Does that happen because of the Constitution or because of that opinion alone?
What happens? It's because of Trump v. U.S. It's the same. It's literally a 1-to-1 comparison. I don't know how to make this more clear. It is a 1-to-1 between the Trump v. U.S. case itself, what was going on in that case, and the holding of the result of the case. The reason that was even the reason that was decided is because a lot of the evidence Jack Smith was using was based on things that were considered to be official acts, such as communicating with your underlings, the deputy AG and stuff like that, as I mentioned. And that was SCOTUS saying, this can't be probed. You can't even look at this. You can't use it as evidence. You can't look into it. You cannot ask the motivation behind any of it. It's official. You can't touch it. Fuck you. Get away. And so now that would be the case. If it were the case that he was taking bribes, that's exactly what would happen now. Now you're not going to be able to prove the elements of bribery anymore. You can't do it because you cannot ascertain the motivation behind the pardon.
Yeah, I see how you're getting to that, but I still think it would be the same if that decision wasn't rendered, because I still feel like you can't really go into why a president is taking an official action because it's purely political sometimes.
Well, pre that decision, you would just charge Trump. If that, say Trump v. US was never decided, that case didn't exist, it was never decided. You would just charge Trump with bribery, drag him into the courtroom. You'd assume, I assume in this case, you would, if you're a good prosecutor, or if a good investigation was done, you would have the financial transaction statements, right? You'd be able to see the money coming into him. And then all you'd have to do to prove the other element is put the person who received the pardon on the stand and just say, why did Trump pardon you? And they would say, because I paid him $1 million. Boom, done, you got him. But now that can't happen.
Would that be after office or if he's president?
Well, after being impeached, because you, generally speaking, you would impeach the person, remove him from office, and then you charge him.
Okay. So you do believe that a president couldn't be charged with the crime when they're saying?
Yeah, you could still charge Trump if Trump were to be impeached and removed. You could charge him you could throw every fucking crime in the entire book at him. You could charge him with a shitload of stuff. You're just not gonna be able to prove any of it because the evidence you would need is all gonna be protected under the Trump v. U.S. decision.
Oh, when he's in office, though.
Well, when he's in office, I think the DOJ already has they already have. We don't really even need to get into the legal basis of whether or not you could, because the DOJ is already they stand really firm on the idea that we would never, that's by DOJ official rules. You cannot do that. You can't charge the sitting president with shit.
To me, that seems as arbitrary as saying that the Trump decision just came out of nowhere. It's like the DOJ policy saying that you can't prosecute a sitting president.
Well, the Trump v. U.S. decision never said that you couldn't charge a sitting president. It's not what they were. That's not what the ruling was.
Yeah, I understand, but I'm saying it's as arbitrary as the Trump v. U.S. decision, the DOJ policy.
Well, the DOJ policy is because it would just be a bad look. So that's their official internal policy. Is we would never do something like that because it would be a fucking horrible look. We're not going to do it. That would be bad. We're just going to stay away from all that. The reason I say the Supreme Court decision was pulled out of nowhere is because they pulled it out of, they didn't get it. For instance, when we talk about let's use JGG versus Trump, because I was just talking about that case with the last guy. The holding in that case was pulled directly. They yoinked it directly from historical sources. They pulled it from the Ludecky decision. They pulled it from the 14th Amendment itself. Every single claim they make in that ruling, it's a pretty short opinion, but every claim made, you can cite directly back to something historical. With Trump v. U.S., they just repeatedly cite back to, I think their sources were one Federalist paper that sort of was in the ballpark of their argument, but it ultimately wasn't exact. It wasn't on point. And then they cited to the Nixon case a million times. Because we already ruled the president can't be held civilly liable for anything, so we should say that he can't be held criminally liable either. Which my rebuttal to that argument would be there's a huge difference in the public interest between civil suits and criminal prosecution.
I think the DOJ policy. Well, I'm gonna come back for a second. The DOJ policy came about because the DOJ under Mises in the 1980s said that the separation of powers requires that the DOJ be completely beholden to the president, and they can't really prosecute the president because they're under the executive branch. And usually the DOJ will only not defend a statute for two reasons. One, it takes away the powers of the president, or two, there's no justifiable reason that could, there's no justifiable purpose for the law, like, at all.
Well, that's
So
kind of the same point I was making. Like when I said like the reason they wouldn't do it is
Oh
because it
yeah.
would be a bad look. Because ultimately, what you would have to require, or what would be required for you, is if say you were the attorney general, for you to charge the president with something, you would have to. Again, I mean, like you said, you're directly under the president. You'd have to be going again, because obviously the president's not going to be like, yes, charge me. That's not going to be happening. So you'd have to be going directly against them, which is why I say like it would be a fucking horrible look. Holy shit, it'd be the worst look.
to me, it's not like a horrible look. It's just like it's completely precluded by the Constitution under Article 3, where it says you have to have a case or a controversy. And if Article 2 says that the president has the executive power, then there's no case or controversy where the attorney general is prosecuting the president. The president could just tell him to stop. There's no controversy there. And there's no case there.
That's what I'm saying. The president could. You're right. The president could just tell them to stop. Like they could say, "No, don't prosecute me." That's where the so necessarily, because the president can order you to not prosecute them. Necessarily, what would be required is for you to ignore the orders of your direct superior. That's where it's like we get into whole fucking horrible territory there. So that's what I'm saying. We're agreeing. We're just saying it different ways.
Yeah. Well,
Like that'd be
that's
super bad. No one wants that. Nobody wants that. Like we don't want the
Well,
fucking
seems-
AG fighting the president. That's bad.
Well, to me, that too seems as much fiction as Trump v. U.S., where it says that you can't really prosecute a president for their official acts.
Okay. That's not the case, but I would also argue that even if let's say they were both just as made up, let's say the DOJ policy and the decision in Trump v. US was just as made up, like they were both just made up from fucking nothing, and it was just the generally the way that the feelings of the people involved in making those policies and decisions. You wouldn't weigh those things the same. I don't put the same amount of weight into a Department of Justice internal policy as I do a Supreme Court decision. That would be unhinged for you to weight those two things the same way.
I don't get which one is weighed more.
The Supreme Court decision that SCOTUS, like a DOJ policy, could be any AG or any president could just fucking turn that, like could just get rid of that policy if they wanted to at the snap of a finger. That could just be gone tomorrow. But SCOTUS precedent is binding law, so that has way more weight. What the Supreme Court rules has way more weight than what the DOJ has for their internal policies, because they could just be changed, like snap, boom, gone.
Okay, I kind of agree with that. But I still don't see why you think Trump v. US was a bad decision.
Well, because I'll explain one more time. I'll do it slow. The reason I think it's a bad decision, for one, because the consequences are not good, very not good. I guess I'll give you three reasons. One, very not good consequences. Now you can not theoretically, you could very easily have a president that does fucking disgustingly illegal shit and just walk away unharmed, unfazed. So that is not good. Secondly, it almost directly contradicts what the purpose of the founding of our country was. If you can sit there in good faith and tell me that you think the framers of the Constitution would have wanted a president that is immune from prosecutions for corruption shit, no, they would be very against that. And then three, because they didn't actually derive, when the Supreme Court comes to a decision, it's supposed to be derived from the Constitution. They just didn't in this case. They pulled it out of a fucking hat.
Okay. I still think it's almost completely consistent with the rule of law still. Well, there was one thing I wanted to add too. It's slipping my mind right now. Do you think the president can pardon himself?
That is a good question. I honestly have no fucking clue. I have no clue, and I need SCOTUS to weigh in on that. Like, if it came to the end of his term and Trump knew that, like, listen, I've done a lot of bad shit, and the evidence will eventually come out. I'm just gonna pardon myself for everything I've done in the last 4 years, and he did. I have no opinion. I can't have an opinion here. I don't know. I'll say it like this. Legally speaking, I actually don't have a clue. I don't even know what I would look to decide. Because, well, for one, a lot of what you look to when you're deciding legal, like when you're deciding on legal situation, is precedent. There's no fucking precedent there. So I don't know what to do there in that regard. And then secondly, intuitively, that feels real bad. Like that would just feel like if you were the president and you knew that you were just doing a bunch of illegal shit and you were just like, well, I'm just gonna pardon myself on the way out the door. That feels like that shouldn't be allowed. Mainly because then it's not so much about, well, I mean, it is about justice, right? You would, if the president was doing a bunch of illegal shit and stuff that you could prove, even given the Trump v. U.S. decision, let's say there were some crimes in there that you could have still proven. You want justice, like you would want justice, right? And then the biggest problem, the biggest reason I wouldn't want that is because I think that would set a precedent for all future presidents that like you don't even have to give a flying fuck about what the law says. You don't have to care. The law means nothing. Do what you want. You're free. You just fucking walk out into the street and shoot somebody in the face if you want to, because then you just pardon yourself and you're good.
Well, I sort of see no difference with that from saying that, the attorney general can just be told by the president not to prosecute the president.
Well, the difference would be if you pardon yourself, that pardon's irreversible. If the AG being told not to prosecute the president, that very same president would still be prosecutable after they leave office. It could just be, a couple years later, you just ring him up for all those crimes he was doing in office. But if you pardon yourself, that's forever. That's locked in. That it can never be undone. Even once you leave office, you're still immune from all of the things that you pardoned yourself for, right? That's the difference. It's the difference of like, okay, I can't prosecute you now, but I'll get you in a couple years, versus I can never prosecute you for any of this. And you wouldn't want that to be the standard, I don't think.
Yeah, I read a book about this recently, and I don't want to bother you with it too much, but this, and I'll say I wanted to ask you one last question about what court case you thought was interesting, because I also like court cases a lot. But the book was explaining the pardon power, and they said, there's only one exception in the Constitution to the pardon power, which is the impeachments. So
Yeah.
the Latin rule is like the inclusion of one exclusion is the exclusion of other exclusions. So a bit confusing. So just saying that, if the pardon power has an exclusion for an exemption for impeachments, then all other exemptions are exempt. Like there are no other exceptions to the pardon power.
Yeah, I see. I totally. Yeah, if well, because we do this a lot with constitutional language of like the framers were pretty intentional with what they said in the Constitution. Like the Constitution's written very well. They were very intentional when they say when they say it's just assumed that if they put something on the topic in there, so exactly what you're saying, they put an exemption to the pardon power. That means they could have if they really wanted the president to be exempt from pardons, they could have put it there, but they didn't, which means it's probably not exempt. Yeah, but I'm not saying anything about. Again, this would need I would need SCOTUS to step in on this one and
there's a
have it
current
be-
argument for that, which is like it's just so ridiculous to think that a president can pardon himself, and the nature of a pardon. I know we use textualism now. We're not like what's the other side called? I don't know what they're called these days. They name themselves something different. Okay.
originalists.
No, the opposite of that.
Hey, come here. Sorry. Sorry, I had to walk away. My dogs are barking at each other.
If you're an originalist, you probably use textualism too, and the opposite of that would be I don't know, living constitution theory, I guess. So saying that the pardon, the plain meaning of a pardon just means like you can't give a pardon to yourself the same way you can't forgive yourself for doing something wrong to someone else, if that makes sense. So like the plain meaning of the word pardon would only mean like a pardon for someone else, not yourself. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I can see arguments on both sides. My only opinion on the matter is that I just wouldn't want that power to exist. Because then, yeah, it's just for the reasons I laid out. Then you get into the world of like, oh, I can actually do whatever the fuck I want. That's cool.
Mhm.
And I don't think you want your chief law enforcement officer having the belief, and if it was ruled on by, if something like that were to get to SCOTUS and they ruled like, actually, yes, the president can do this, then not only the belief that they can do whatever they want, but the reality that they can just do whatever they want. I don't think I'd want the chief law enforcement officer to be like, I can do anything and you can't do shit about it.
You cannot pardon yourself. Nixon v. United States. I don't think they ruled that. Someone in the comments said that. I never really understood what Nixon did wrong, but I don't want to talk about that.
Well, do you mean legally?
Yeah.
I actually don't necessarily know at the time, because the problem, like, we have new laws on the books now, right? I actually don't know what law they would have hit Nixon with if they were going to charge him criminally for anything, for any of his actions. I actually don't, I have no idea. But in terms of the reason he was impeached, like it doesn't have to be a crime. Like, you don't have to be impeached for a crime. Ultimately, Congress can impeach you for whatever the fuck they want to.
I think it's a bit limited. I think the standard that there's that one phrase, small crimes and misdemeanors, small offenses and misdemeanors. What was it?
So I'll phrase it like this: when it comes to something like impeachment, SCOTUS would, for let's say Congress wanted to impeach the president for something that was technically not illegal, not a crime in any way, shape, or form. It wasn't a fucking felony, wasn't a misdemeanor, it was nothing. Not illegal, but it was seen as very bad public image. Maybe it was just a horrible PR thing, and it made him look horrible, and it made America look bad, and so they wanted to impeach him for that. And it was the case that people were like, you can't use the impeachment power this way. That impeachment is one of those things that I don't think SCOTUS would go near with a 10-foot pole. So you would, ultimately, if they wanted to impeach him, they would.
There was a
and
president.
SCOTUS wouldn't do dick about it.
There
This
was a
SCOTUS,
president
this SCOTUS.
before, Lincoln, that was almost impeached for overusing the pardon power. I'm trying to think. I'm not sure it was Jackson.
I mean, yeah, but that could be the case. That's kind of, yeah. You're making my point. Yeah, like, overusing the pardon power is not a fucking crime at all. But yeah, just like, it looks corrupt, it looks bad, right? So Congress can just impeach you, and SCOTUS isn't going to go anywhere near that. They're just going to claim it's a political question. They're not going to touch it, and then boom, it'll happen if Congress wants it to happen.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not sure it would even get there in the first place. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is hard to impeach someone. You have to have like huge support for it. Theoretically, like, this is a fantasy. Like, this would never happen. I just don't see this happening, right? But let's say it were the case that, like, Republicans won 100% of the House and 100% of the Senate. So, like, everyone in Congress was Republican, and then a Democrat president got elected. They could just impeach him on day one for nothing. And fucking SCOTUS isn't going anywhere near that. They're going to be like, nope, political question. We're not ruling. Go ahead, do it.
I feel like you still have to have like meat on the bones when it comes to like.
So then my question to you, I understand you feel that way, and I know that you feel that way, and I know why you feel that way. But then you tell me what would be done about it, because the answer is nothing would be done about it.
The phrase is high crimes and misdemeanors.
Listen, don't cite the Constitution at me, because I understand, and that's what I'm saying. I get why you feel that way, because you're pulling it from the text of the Constitution. I'm saying, who would stop them from doing it? If Congress all came together on day one of a Democratic, president's presidency and said, we're impeaching you, and because the House and the Senate were 100% Republican, it went through like immediately. Who would stop them? What's the mechanism by which someone would interject and stop that? Normally, it would be SCOTUS coming in and saying, you can't do that. But I'm telling you, this Supreme Court composition wouldn't go anywhere fucking near that case, because it's very much a political question, and this SCOTUS defers on political questions like every single time. They're like, nope, not touching it. Fuck you.
I see the point you're making.
Yeah. So I'm not saying constitutionally it would be like even a thing that would like should be able to happen constitutionally speaking, but it would happen and no one would do anything about it.
It'll probably never happen ever.
No, but because for that hypothetical I laid out, you would need 100%. You'd need one party to have 100% of the House and Senate, and that alone just wouldn't ever happen.
Yeah. What case were you talking about in the beginning? I think it was before I joined when you were talking to the other guy.
Probably JGG versus Trump. Like, we were talking about that case a good bit.
No, the one you said you were interested in that got you interested in the law.
Oh, fuck, I forget who the plaintiff was. Let's see, hold on, 1 sec. It was one of the cases against the AG. Bondi was named, but it wasn't originally filed against Bondi. She just happened to be the AG because they just turned over. Bondi versus Vanderstock.
Oh, I remember that. It was the one about the ghost guns.
Yeah, it was the ghost guns case. I read that case because I fucking love guns, and I heard that SCOTUS ruled on a gun thing, and I read it and I was like, yo, this shit is fucking cool, dude. And then I went on like a 6-month spree of being an obsessed lunatic reading everything.
Yeah. I was actually at the Supreme Court the day that they were arguing the Bruen case. That was like 3 years ago or 2 years ago, maybe. It was also a gun case where they uh, uh, said that the New York's law on licensing was unconstitutional, which I thought was pretty interesting. This is a super interesting guy called Paul Clement. He argues
Yeah,
for.
Paul Clements. He's a guy. He's the motherfucker's a legend. Legend.
I got to meet him twice.
Oh really? That's
Yeah.
dope. That dude's a legend. That dude has, what is he? I think he ended up by the end of Bush's presidency, he was like at like 110 Supreme Court cases that he'd argued. I'm like, damn, motherfucker putting in work.
Probably.
The
He's
lunatic.
really smart, and he argues without any notes. And I heard that that's like his thing. He just goes up there during oral arguments and argues without any notes up front, and just like remembers everything from his head.
Mhm.
But he's really smart, and he's really well thought out too.
Yeah. Well, it was a fun conversation, Felix.
All right, thank you.
Hey, you have a good one. All right. Who was it in the chat? It was a no profile picture user person fucking tweaking out like, you don't love guns, you don't love. Hey, brother, listen to me. If I told you the amount of money I've blown on guns, bro. Oh man. Oh, I wish I didn't like them as much as I do. I wish I didn't. I wish you were right. I wish I hated guns because too many of my paychecks have gone down the fucking drain because of them. Too many. Next guest. Wait, who is this person? Who am I trying to bring up? I'm lagging. It's not letting this person up. Hey, Nick. How's it going? Guys, click the follow button. Oh, by the way, I think we already hit 10K. Because I said we needed 78 followers this stream, and we've gained 79 followers. So I think we might have hit it. Let's see. Let me check my page. Yep, 10,000 followers. Fucking fat dubs, bro. Fat dubs. Hey, yo, Nick. Nick Dell 95, thank you for the heart me. Jim and Pip also thank you for the heart me's. I appreciate you guys. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Did you hear about Mike Johnson wanting to raise Congress's pay? I have not heard that one yet. No, that one went over my head. I haven't heard it. Haven't heard it. That is crazy. That is wild behavior. Opie won't leave his basement. Does this look like a basement, brother? I'm on the second floor. This is the second floor. Said they don't earn enough. Meanwhile, they haven't raised federal minimum wage. That is a wild claim. Oh, wait, it kicked that person. I had a person like that was like in the process of coming up. Hello.
Hey, what's up?
How's it going?
Hello. Yeah, I just had a question real quick.
What's up?
So, was it unconstitutional when Obama deported 5.2 million people and 75% of them got no due process and 38% of them were not criminals?
Where's the evidence that 75% of them had no due process?
Just Google it, bro.
No, I'm not. We're not playing the just Google it games. Present your facts.
All right, I'll get it right here. We have the MPI, also American Immigration Council, Pew Research Center, what else? ABC News, just a grip of sources right here.
Okay. Fox News, OAN, CNN, MSNBC.
Yeah, I said that I just said a grip of sources right here.
Well,
for you.
you're just naming sources, so am I. What did they say? What was the
Yeah,
claim?
yeah.
Present the claim. What's the claim? Andrew, do you think habeas corpus gets suspended? Like, will they do it? I don't know. I have no idea. I hope not, but I don't know. By the way, Nick, thank you for the 3 popular votes. Much appreciated. This guy, I think, swiped out of his phone screen. So he swiped out of TikTok, so I can't hear him anymore. But I'm sure he'll come back. Surely. Surely. Ba-ba-ba. Ba-ba-ba. He's referring to the expedited removals. I know. I want him to say that. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Ba-ba-ba. What's up about the airplane? Trump is trying to accept a $400 million plane
Hello,
from
hello.
Qatar.
I
What's
got a
up?
phone call.
Okay.
My bad, cuz. Yeah, I got a phone call. What were you saying?
Well, I was saying
So, what,
you're citing like you're just saying the names of sources. What I'm asking what the
so,
claim
so
is.
it's, but the thing is what I said untrue?
I would say yes.
Oh, you would say yes because you're not reading it? How about you just Google, did Obama deport 5.2 million people?
Well, I know he deported a lot of people. That's not my. I'm
Okay,
not saying
and then
that's bad.
and then you would ask what percentage of those people got due process,
Well, no, I
and
would
you would
I
get
would not ask.
75%.
I would not ask what percentage of them got due process. I would say by what
And
mechanism were they deprived of their due process. Here's the difference between me and you. When I
and
complain
and,
about
and
Trump
here's the
deporting
thing.
people, when I complain about Trump deporting someone without due process, I can tell you exactly how their due process rights were deprived. I can tell you the exact process by which he denied them due process. That's all I'm asking you to do. And if you can't do that, then you didn't come here prepared to have this conversation.
Brother, why are you muting me?
Because you're not just going to fucking yap up here. You can tell me what mechanism was used to strip them of due process. And if you can't do that, you are not prepared to have this talk.
Expedited removal
Expedited removal is not removal without
is
due
under
process.
Obama. That's what do you mean? That's what Obama used to remove 5.2 million immigrants.
I know
and
he did. I know he used
75% of
expedited
them
removal.
were
Expedited
removal.
removal processes are constitutional.
Okay, they're legal. They're constitutional on pen and paper. But my point is that with personal experience, I've had family members deported under Obama administration with no due process because they didn't get to see or get a court hearing because officials were given permission to deport people on the spot. Okay, so
Yep, that's part of what expedited removal is.
okay,
They're not playing around when they say
Trump's not doing
expedited.
that. So Trump's not doing that.
Do you know what due process is
he's
in the immigration context?
Wait, hold on. So Trump is not giving authorities permission or authorization to deport immigrants, without a court hearing. Is that what's not happening?
Do you think that the hearing is the part that I'm mad
Is
about?
that what's happening?
Do you think that
Is
the hearing is the part that I'm mad about?
we
Both know that's what's we both know that's what's happening. People have been removed with no hearings. Yes.
Okay,
But
so
that's not
you're
what I'm mad about.
You're mad about no due process, which means being able to get seen by a fucking judge and have a case
No.
and an investigation.
No. That's the problem. How can you come up here with so much fire, just so much fucking stupid shit pouring out of your mouth when you don't know?
I'm not gonna speak like a goddamn dictionary.
When you have no idea what my position is, you're arguing against ghosts. You're fighting fucking things that aren't there. It's like you're like a fucking schizophrenic. You're fighting shit that doesn't exist.
Motherfucker, I asked you a question in the beginning though, and you said, "Go, what's your source?"
No, you said,
Well,
do you know that Obama deported 5.2 million people with no due process?
I have a question. I said, "Hey, what's up, bro? I have a question for you," and then I asked you my question.
What was your question?
It was it unconstitutional for Obama to deport 5.2 million people and 75% of them were deported without seeing a judge, which to me was no due process.
Oh, see, but you
But
said
they were
without
given-
you said without due process. That's why I asked you for a source, because deporting someone via expedited removal procedures without putting them in front of a judge isn't removal
Okay, so
of due
then
process.
define due process.
In the immigration context, the only thing you need to have due process is the ability to challenge your designation. So when the government says you're deportable, you must be given the chance to say, no, I'm not. If you're under an expedited removal procedure, you are notified that you're going to be deported. You have the chance to say, whoa, I'm not even removable, man. I'm here like legally. But if you don't say that, if you don't speak up and you don't challenge the removal, you will just be removed. That's not no due process. The process is you had the chance to fight back and you chose not to.
And that argument comes up because of the Abrigo case.
The
Garcia?
Abrigo case comes up with all the Alien Enemies Act deportations.
Okay.
There was no chance to contest. That's the due process removal.
And contest would be a court hearing. Would they be going to
If
court?
you chose to contest, you would end up in court if you chose to. You don't have to. Ultimately the government could say you're an alien enemy, we're going to remove you, and you could say, okay, go ahead, remove me. You can let it happen. but the process requires that you be allowed to defend yourself if you don't think that designation applies to you. Under an expedited removal, necessarily, expedited removal is like a whole process that is built into our immigration system. Definitionally so, when you are removed under an expedited removal procedure, you do have the chance to contest. But you can choose not to. That's what you're talking about. You're talking about a bunch of people that was just like, fuck it. I'm not going to fight it. You're right. I am deportable. Get me out of here. That's not unconstitutional.
But the thing is, when all these deportations are happening, though, these ICE officials, they're going directly to people's houses, right? To like doors and stuff, like to like personal private locations, essentially. It's not like random. But my point is with that is they know where these people are. They know where you live, whether you're illegal or legal. Because when you're illegal, your employer is what pays. They like you're for like okay. My bad. Let me clear this up. Like you'll have a lot of stupid conservatives and Trump supporters just fucking blatantly say that, oh, these people are they're wasting our taxes. They're using our taxes. But little do they know that illegals do pay taxes. They pay a lot of taxes, okay? But they don't do it directly. Most of the time their employers do it, right? So my point is ICE officials and a lot of, I guess, the government, if what you want to fucking say is they know where all these people live at the end of the day. And so when they show up knocking at your house, at your door, it's for a reason. It's not for no reason, okay? I mean, I'm Mexican. Why aren't ICE officials knocking at my door? Why aren't they knocking at my family's door?
Why are you fighting ghosts?
I'm serious though. Like, I'm just raising points
like,
that.
Well, what you're doing is you're talking for the sake of talking. You're not arguing against me. I'm not defending, or I'm not like fighting against any of what you're saying. It's all true. You're accurate.
But it's not. But it's because it's the side that sides with you. And the things that I'm speaking of, it's not that I'm fighting ghosts. It's maybe you didn't raise these.
Okay, well, did you request to talk in my live so you could fight with other people, or did you request to talk in my live so you could argue with me? Because if you're here to argue with me, then let's do it. Let's argue with me.
Essentially, I'm here. That's why I'm asking you questions.
Okay, so let's argue with me. I don't care about anything other than I have no issue whatsoever deporting illegal immigrants. If you are here in an undocumented status, so long as you're given your due process, so long as the government says, hey, we're going to deport you, and they say, would you like to challenge? And you say no or yes, as long as that process is allowed to play itself out, I don't give a fuck.
So you don't think that some of these immigrants though that they can be using that system as a loophole? Because like, let's say you get immigration come knocking at your door and they're gonna try and deport you, and you're trying to get due process, which means according to you, which is like choosing, like having the ability to be able to choose whether you just want to willingly get deported or fight it, right? That's what due process is to you, which is having the ability to be able to fight that deportation process.
Well, it's fight the accusation. So when under the INA, there's two.
Yeah.
There's the INA is the main method of deportation, but under the Alien Enemies Act, the method that I'm most upset about, under the Alien Enemies Act, the government would say that we have designated you as an alien enemy, and in this context, it means that we've decided that you are a member of Tren de Aragua and that you are a Venezuelan citizen. That's the accusation. You're a member of Tren de Aragua and you are a citizen of Venezuela. What you would be defending is those 2 points. You would be saying you would either be saying I'm not even Venezuelan, you fucking dickhead, or you'd be saying no, I am not a member of this gang. You'd be fighting those points, and yes, you should have the right to fight on those points. If the government says, "Hey, you're a gang member," you should be able to say like, "No, I'm not. What are you talking about?"
Yeah, you're right, and I definitely don't agree with that entirely. But at the same time, I feel like you guys just with that argument, you guys are making it easier for bad people to take advantage of the system. Oh, sorry about that. For the system that they have set up for all the good immigrants and whatnot. Like, I know that not all are bad and shit, but my point is just that you guys are just leaving too many like loopholes for these people. Easily, let's say for example, I'm a fucking MS-13 member, and I'm saying, no, I'm not from a gang. I'm not from El Salvador. I'm not from MS-13 and this and that, which is essentially what Abrigo Garcia did. It's so easy for you to just deny and say no. It's just it makes no sense.
So your
There's just
your
loopholes.
chief complaint, you're bitching about the system, the American justice system, allowing people to defend themselves. That's what you're mad about. You think that certain types of people,
They're not
you think
American people, though.
we should make
They're
buckets,
not
and we should say
Americans.
if
They're not American people.
if the government says we think you're an illegal immigrant, so we're just going to deport you.
But it's not.
How do you know? How do you know?
it's not
How would you know?
whether- Because they have no fucking identification. What do you mean? How would you know? It's so easy to know whether someone is illegal or
And what
not.
I'm
because
saying
they
is
don't
you should,
have-
if they say you're illegal, and you say no, I'm not. I got my paperwork right here, Bucko. That's the due process right there. But if you say no due process for people we think are illegal, all ICE would have to do is bust your fucking door down and say you're illegal, grab you and go, and that's it. That's it for you. You're done.
That's not how it works, bro.
The system. That's not how it works because of what I'm saying. Because of my point. That's why it's not how that works. What you're arguing for could allow for that. You're arguing for the concept of if we think you're illegal, if that's the conclusion the government has come to. It's funny, it's hilarious how you guys just trust the fucking government with your whole heart
But
now.
it's
That's
not,
hilarious.
It's not a matter of thinking, though. It's not like if we think. Everything you're saying, though, is speculation because all of the arrests, they're not because officers and authority are going, I think you're illegal. No, it's because they had some type of notice to go to this person's house. Like they know where the fuck they live. It's not just, I saw you at Target. I think you're an illegal. Like, what are you talking about, bro? What are you talking about?
I'm not saying that they've just grabbed random fuckers. I'm saying the system that you're here in my chat, in my fucking live, arguing for what the system you seem to want would allow for what I'm saying. It would allow for them to just be like, because you're saying if it is the case that a person is illegal, if we can determine that they're an illegal immigrant, then no due process for them. They never get to challenge any accusations we make. If we
Wait,
make
so
the accusation, that's final.
You're saying
At that
the
point,
system that I'm defending, it would allow that. Why
yeah,
isn't it happening then?
it's just super weird how I was explaining.
saying
Like,
if and
it's
buts.
so
You're saying
fucking
if
weird
and
how
buts.
I
Why
was
isn't it
explaining it
happening
to
then?
you, and then you cut me off. Isn't that super weird how that works?
But why is it all these ifs and buts and it's not happening?
Is it not like a circular issue? If you ask me a question, I go to answer the question, then you cut me off in the middle, then I have to restart. Isn't that is
Shoot,
that
I
kind
mean,
of circular?
Shoot, you did the same thing asking for sources, right?
Well, you can't just make wild claims, right?
Well,
And then
I
not
mean,
source it.
You definitely can make claims and then you just feel the need to go search it yourself. I mean, you have a computer in front of you.
Well,
plus
when I
can't
know that you're wrong,
to
when I
a-
know you're wrong, listen to me. Your claim was Obama deported 5.2 million people, and 75% of those deportations were done with no due process.
38%
I
of
knew
them were criminals.
instantly. I knew you were
and
talking about.
38% were criminals. Was I wrong
I don't
about
give a
that?
fuck if they're criminals or not. I do not care.
What do you mean you don't care if they're criminals or not? What do you mean?
I'm okay. I am all right with
You're
deporting
okay with-
illegal immigrants. Listen to me.
So you're
This is the thing. You
illegals 38%.
Yes, listen to me.
Non-criminals.
You are doing it again. You're arguing with fucking ghosts. You think
What?
that you think
You
I'm
just
not
said
okay
this.
with I'm okay with deporting illegal immigrants, even ones that haven't committed crimes. If you've done nothing wrong, but you came here illegally, I'm okay with deporting you. And I'm gonna say this slow as shit so it gets through your fucking head. All I care about is the constitutional rights portion. So long as these people are given the chance to challenge, I don't care. That's it. That's all I care about.
And that's understandable. But then that's when I raised the point that there is loopholes that bad people take advantage of. Like what? What?
Yeah, there's loopholes in every governmental system that people take advantage of. I don't care. That's how you protect the system. You don't get rid of the system because you think there might be a loophole that some people could take advantage of. You don't say like, well, I know we have all the I know we have all these laws. I know we have all these laws that dictate like, you have to pass a background check to buy a gun and you have to do all, you have to jump through these hoops to buy guns, but there's loopholes, so we should just get rid of all guns. That's not how our system works. That's not how anything fucking works.
What are the loopholes when purchasing a gun legally? What's the loophole?
You baked in the answer to your question. You said legally. If you do everything legally, if you break no laws in the whole process, then there is no loophole. You've done the thing properly. Same thing with due process. So long as everything goes the way it's supposed to go and no laws get broken, there is no loophole.
That was a terrible argument with the guns, bro. That was terrible.
That is the exact same argument. That is the literal exact same argument.
It's not. So if both of you and I walk into a gun shop and we purchase a firearm, you're telling me that you'll have a loophole and I won't?
Why would I have a loophole if I do the process correctly?
That's what I'm fucking trying to say, is that there's loopholes with the legal systems that you're speaking of, the due process. There is loopholes
How? What's the
within
loophole?
legal
How?
system.
Tell me what the loophole is.
Lying and saying I'm not from there and I am not of that descent.
Do you think
What
that
the fuck
that's
are
do
you
you think
talking
that's how
about?
these cases go?
Like,
Do you,
what?
do you think that that's how that works? Like you just say, "Oh, actually, I'm not even from Venezuela," and the government's like, "Oh,
You
I
just
guess
said
I
it.
guess you're right."
That
No,
was your
that would be
example, though.
that would be your
Hold on, hold on.
counterclaim, and then the government could provide evidence to say to prove you're lying.
Okay.
You think that
Literally
that's where the analysis ends? Are you that uninformed about how our
everything
legal
you
system
just
works?
based on the way that you're fucking saying it, yeah, like you literally just said that when you're arrested, that you should get due process and that you should be able to defend yourself, and that defending yourself looks like obviously denying to get deported to that location or denying that you're even from there or from that specific gang.
And you
Like,
thought
you're
that when I
like-
said that, and when you thought when I said that I meant that the government wouldn't be able to come back with counter evidence.
You didn't say it.
Do I need to say it? Or are you that fucking stupid that I would have to say that?
I mean, we're having a conversation here, no?
Do you have any sort of even like a semblance of a clue how the legal system works? Of course the government comes back with counter evidence. Of fucking course.
So then with Rodrigo Garcia's case, the court came back with like they just came back multiple times with different, I guess, cases under his fucking name of him, being abusive and just having like restraining orders and stuff like that, and having connection to MS-13 and whatnot. I don't know, like I don't know, dude. It's just you guys are something else, man.
I know. Like it's a real big strain on your brain that I want to follow the law. I know that fucking hurts. God forbid anyone follow the laws of the country, right? God forbid we
mean-
care about the Constitution. We should probably
Well,
honest to God,
Oh,
we should
you know what?
probably
Hold on,
we
hold
should
on.
we should
Honestly,
we should just
you
stop
care
teaching.
so much.
We should
You
stop
care
teaching the
so much.
Constitution in school.
You care
Honestly,
so much about the defending the Constitution and the laws to the point where you would make it and allow it to be easy for criminals and bad people to be able to abuse the Constitution and laws and have loopholes around our system when they shouldn't be here in the first place. So how does it make sense for you to defend something so wholeheartedly and allow bad people to be present and also put damage on it?
I'll tell you why. Let me
that
answer.
makes
Let me
sense.
answer.
You're
Let me.
fucking
No,
stupid, bro.
you just asked me a question. Let me answer your question.
Go
Don't
ahead, go ahead,
ask
go
me
ahead.
shit you don't want answers to. Okay.
Go ahead, white boy.
If let's say right now, I walked outside of my house and I watched my neighbor shoot somebody, I watched it happen, like literally with my own eyes, I watched him just murder somebody, I would still fight with every last breath for that guy to get a fair trial. Even though I know for a fucking fact he committed a crime, I don't want his due process rights gone. Just like when we have an illegal immigrant, I know for a fucking fact he committed a crime because coming into the country illegally is a criminal act. I know for a fact that guy committed a crime, 100%, but I still want him to have his due process rights. Just like if I watched my neighbor kill someone, I may know 100% he did it, but I still want him to have his due process rights. I don't want anyone's due process rights to go out the fucking window, no matter what I know about them, no matter what I think about them. That's it. That's the answer to your question. I want everyone to get their constitutional rights regardless.
Okay, so then so then my question now would be, if Trump went the route of doing expedited removals, would you guys be so upset?
No.
You would not be upset. if he did
Expedited
an
removals.
expedited removal.
Expedited removals inherently have due process baked into them. The INA is written really, really well. I don't know if you've ever read that law. No, sorry, I'm so sorry. I know for a fucking fact you haven't. It's written really good, really well. It's a perfectly written immigration law. It's so good. If he just followed the INA and did expedited removals, that's fine. I wouldn't even be here talking about this.
Got it. I mean, when it comes to like obviously constitutional stuff, I don't entirely disagree with you. My bad, I'm wiping my face. I was eating. Yeah, I don't entirely like disagree with you when it comes to that shit. It seems like unfairness because there's a lot of personal cases that I know that happened under Obama's terms where, yeah, technically on pen and paper, it was an expedited removal, and in law, you get due process still and whatnot. But it didn't happen though. Like it just didn't happen. And so you can sit here and say, "Oh well, this is written law. This exists and this and that." It doesn't happen all the time though. You know what I'm saying? It's just you can defend something so hard that's like written down in law, but yet it's not being what's the word, uh, enforced. You know.
Yeah, well, for one, again, even if you're being removed under an
So
expedited removal procedure, you can challenge the removal. Secondly, if you let's say there was some fucking fantasy world in which like they just didn't let you, they just booted you with no chance whatsoever to challenge, you can still sue the government, or someone could sue on your behalf if you have like family that's left in the country. Perfect example, Abrego Garcia's case. His wife is suing on his behalf because she's still
he's
here.
so guilty though. That guy is guilty.
Well, he's never been convicted of anything.
Well, he's an MS-13 member based on those tattoos.
Wait, those tattoos don't fucking prove shit.
Yes, they do, because I'm from the Valley and I grew up around MS-13 and I know what those tattoos mean.
If you grew up around
And
MS-13, you would know that MS-13 members will just tattoo the words MS-13 right on the fucking right over their chest.
but they also use
They do this shit.
symbolism.
Okay, so if I were to go get those exact same tattoos, there's a tattoo shop right down the street. If I go get the exact same
Yeah,
tattoos Abrego Garcia has, I'm all of a sudden I'm in MS-13 now.
not in America, but if you went to El Salvador, yes, you would not be allowed to
Do you know where he got those tattoos? Do you know if he got them here?
over there in his home because
Because
he came from
because
El Salvador and he was 16 years old when he fled due to MS-13 scares, and you cannot just be willy-nilly associated with MS-13 for fun, you know, something like that. You can't just hang around MS-13 members. You know that, right?
do you know the context that he was hanging around with? That he was near MS-13 members. Do you know the context?
I don't need the context, bro. He has the tattoos. How about when he was arrested and he had 3 MS-13 members in his van and he was fucking trafficking people?
There's no evidence that any of the people that
Okay.
he was with were
What are you
MS-13
talking
members.
about? There's literally body cam footage.
There's body cam footage of him with people. You said with MS-13 members. There's no evidence that those people were MS-13 members. He was
There was
in the car
literally
with a bunch of people.
there was literally a court case on it. What are you talking about?
Okay, cite me the case. Give me the
I'm
case
not gonna
number.
do it right now because I mean
I know
I
you're not, because it
can't
doesn't
put a
exist.
whole.
So,
It does exist. You can look it up yourself. I mean,
so,
I can DM you.
so give me the
I can
case number.
DM it to you.
In fact, here's what I would want to know. Here's what I would want to know. Give me the
Let me get
case. Give me the case number of the case where Abrego Garcia was convicted of anything.
Give me a sec.
Are you gonna give me a case number where Abrego Garcia was convicted of something?
Yeah, I'm gonna try and get it right now.
How are you gonna get a case that doesn't exist?
Just watch.
You want me to watch you get a case that doesn't exist?
You know what? We can keep talking while I type. We can just talk about gangs because I'm very knowledgeable on gangs, and it seems like the white boy is not. Where are you from, bro?
You're very knowledgeable on gangs.
Yeah,
Why are you so
where are you from?
knowledgeable on gangs?
Because I grew up in the ghetto, in the valley.
Are you affiliated with any gangs?
No, just had friends that were in my school because I
Whoa,
grew up in
you
the
had
ghetto.
friends that were in gangs?
Yeah, well, they ended up joining them at the end, and then I stopped becoming friends with them.
Whoa. You had ooh, dude, I don't know if you should be walking around free right now, dude. You had friends that were in gangs? That's a lot of association. You must I mean I'm very inclined to believe you're a gang member.
No, you can try and play that little game, bro.
You
trying
mean
to
the literal exact fucking game you're playing is that one? We just say because you're near a gang member, you are a gang member. We don't need proof of anything to deprive people.
Well, it was forcefully dumbass because it was in school.
You're
Wasn't my
around them.
choice. But it wasn't my choice.
Well, you
I
said
wasn't.
you said you didn't need the context for Abrego Garcia, so I don't need the context for you.
Because I don't have gang markings on me.
That's a lot of context you're giving me that I don't need. I thought
But
you
I
said we
don't
don't.
have
I thought
gang.
you said
But I don't have gang markings
but I
on me
thought
though.
you said we don't need context.
But I don't have gang markings on me though.
I thought you said we don't need context.
No, you asked for context on who he was hanging around with
Yeah,
and
well,
where he
you
got
were hanging around gang members, dude. I think you're a gang member.
You can keep thinking that.
We got it. The next guest. Jesus Christ. I just want to let me clarify something real quick. In the United States of America, if you want to deprive someone, if the government wants to issue a deprivation, you have to prove your accusation or let it go uncontested. I will say that. Cognitive dissonance is a hell of a drug. It sure is. Jesus Christ. You see what I'm dealing with out here, Mick? You see what I'm fucking dealing with? It's gnarly. It's bad. It's bad. I don't know if you guys know this in chat, but in this country, in this beautiful, amazing, great country that we live in, if you want to deprive someone of life, liberty, or happiness, you got to make an accusation, and then you have to let them challenge it. And then if they do challenge it, you got to provide some evidence that your accusation was right. I'll phrase it like that because it's different in the criminal context versus the immigration context. In the immigration context, yeah, you just have to make your accusation, let them challenge it. If they don't challenge it, then you can do whatever you want to them. Well, whatever you want. You can deport them. And then if they do challenge it, then you have to provide some evidence that your accusation was correct. Anyway, Jim, thank you for the cheers and the rose. I appreciate you, Jim. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you, Jim. All right, real quick, I'm gonna bring up the next guest. Let me tell you who the next guest is gonna be real quick. I'm gonna bring up the next guest. Hold up, let me pin the fucking gift goal real quick. I'm gonna bring up the next guest. It's gonna be Ethan Livingston, 88 is gonna be the next guest. So if you're here, Ethan, don't leave yet. I'll be right back. I gotta go to the bathroom real quick, and then we'll bring up Ethan Livingston, and we'll talk it out with him. 1 second, BRB. Hey, chat. How's it going? Let me go get a drink real quick, okay? Let's see. What the fuck was his name? Ethan. Ethan, I swear I'm gonna bring you up as soon as I get back, but I need it. I'm dehydrated as fuck. Let me go get a drink real quick. Because I drank the one I had. BRB. Fucking dogs bite my ankles. Ridiculous. All right, listen, people. If you're in the puppy, hold up. You want to see puppy? She bit me in the ankle when I was walking up the stairs. Ridiculous. Puppy dog. I present to you, puppy dog. Puppy dog. Okay. Australian Shepherd. Yes, I have 2 of them. The other one's fucking passed the fuck out right there. Okay. You're biasing the chat right now with the cute dog. True. All right. Ethan, right? Bring him up. Ethan is coming up. By the way, chat, click the fucking like button or double tap your screen, whatever the mechanism is for liking the live. Let's get the likes up to like 25. Andrew, need a mod? Yeah, Jim, you're here a lot. I meant to reply to you. I think you DM'd me one time asking if you could mod, and I meant to reply to you and be like, yeah, sure. And then I just never did. That is my fault. But you're also here literally all the time. So there you go. Boom, mod. I will say, Jim, don't ban people just for talking shit. We don't ban people for talking shit here. If they're being unhinged, like if they're being fucking psychos, then go for it. But like just for shit talking, don't ever ban anybody for shit talking. We totally allow shit talking here, okay? If they're violating terms of service, then ban them, and if they're being like a fucking psychopath, then ban them. But otherwise, just for shit talking, leave them alone. All right, Jim. Jim, try to re-request. It didn't let you up. I accepted you, and it just buffered for 5 minutes and then never let you up. I don't know what that was about. I guess next guest then, Joker. Hopefully it lets this guy up. Yeah, double tap the screen, guys. Let's get the likes up. You mean Ethan? Yeah, it didn't. I tried to let Ethan up, and it didn't let him. I don't know why. Someone tell him to re-request. That's true. I've been talking a lot of shit in these people's eyes. Haven't gotten kicked yet. Yeah, I don't ban people for shit talking. It's if you're being like a psycho about it. If you're being like an unhinged person, then probably. And then if you're violating TOS, like if you're saying stuff that's like borderline terms of service violations, I have to ban you just to protect my own account. But like if you're just shit talking for the sake of shit talking, you're just like, yeah, fuck you. That's fine. Do it. I don't care. Bro, why is it not letting anyone up? I accepted another guy and it's not letting him up either. TikTok, come on. Work with me. TikTok, come on. Do me a favor. Let this guy come up. Let somebody come up. Jesus. What is happening? What is happening? Let him up. Bro. I'm getting bullied. Let this guy come up. The app is wonky today? Yeah, clearly, bro. It just won't let fucking anyone up. Okay, that's the third person I've tried. We have one more person in queue. Let me try to let this guy up. See what happens. Come on, work with me. Let him up. Oh, fucking, thank God. All right, what's up?
Hello?
Hello?
Oh, wow. Yeah. This is like my first time using TikTok, so I've no idea how any of this works. Okay, anyway. So why do you think that Trump is destroying the constitutional order?
Generally speaking, I think that one of the long-term knock-on effects of a lot of his actions, I fear, is going to be I don't know how to phrase, maybe essentially. I think that his current day actions are going to cause a long-term effect in which people take the Constitution less seriously, or potentially even get it into their heads that they actually don't have to follow the Constitution. And that's bad for us long term because then the violations are going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. Not to say that they haven't already been bad. I think they've been very bad, but it's going to just progress and progress and progress. If you allow the mindset that you actually can just ignore the Constitution when you really feel strongly about it, like if you really hate what it says, you can just kind of pretend it doesn't say that. If you let that mindset kind of percolate in the political landscape, then long term, it's just going to get worse and worse. It's like when people talk about how executive authority expands under every president. They are right, it does, but it's because nobody has stepped up and forced it to shrink back down. And so, therefore, every administration, it's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse, and the constitutional violations will be the same, I think.
Okay. Do you think that Trump has violated the Constitution?
I mean, SCOTUS said that he did, so yeah.
When?
And the decision on JGD versus Trump, they said that it would be it is a violation to deport people without giving them any opportunity to be heard, and he did. So,
is this like recent? Because I've not heard of this.
How do you define recent?
I don't know. Within the last like week, I don't know.
No, it was. I'm gonna say a month and a half ish.
Okay, I mean, if there was like an official ruling by the Supreme Court that, you know, some policy is in violation of the Constitution, then it's impossible to argue that he did something unconstitutional.
April 7th.
But so is this in regards to the deportation without like due process?
Which is a violation of the Constitution.
Okay, and then he is continuing to do that.
Yeah, he just what he does is he just changes his methodology a little bit. He'll add like a slight tweak that gives him this is how I would characterize it, and I totally understand. If you want to argue about what I'm about to say, I would understand why you'd want to argue about it. This is just how I take it. This is how I take it. It seems like when he gets a ruling like this, where he wants to continue to do the action, but the Supreme Court has explicit. God damn it, dogs! 1 second. I'm just gonna kick him out of the room so they can't do this. Okay, anyway, so when he gets a ruling like this where he wants to do something and SCOTUS says, hey, that what you're doing is explicitly unconstitutional, what he'll do is he'll come back and he'll just slightly tweak it to give that plausible deniability, even though in a lot of cases, I still believe, and as SCOTUS hears more cases, we'll find out if I'm correct, but I mean, before this case got to SCOTUS, if you can go back and look at my streams, I was making the exact same arguments for why this was unconstitutional that SCOTUS ended up making. And I'm like, well, shit, I kind of nailed that one on the head. So I would argue that when it comes to a decision like this, it'll come down, it'll say, this is blatantly unconstitutional, you can't do it. He'll make a slight tweak. It'll still be unconstitutional, but it's slightly different. And then he'll be like, see, I changed my behavior after SCOTUS told me to. But it's like, well, did you really? I mean, like, you slightly changed what you were doing, but it's still unconstitutional. And sometimes even for the exact same reasons. And I would argue when it comes to the Alien Enemies Act deportations, his actions are still unconstitutional for the same reasons, but with a slight little twist. So he can semantically claim that, like, oh, I changed stuff.
So I think there's two things. I mean, if he is doing something that is actively constitutional and then the Supreme Court says, no, that is unconstitutional, you cannot do that, and he continues to do that, then there's a much stronger argument for, okay, yeah, then he's obviously doing something unconstitutional. He's attempting to destroy or go against it. However, if he is trying to tweak it, and I don't know anything, I'm just like a random guy, but while it doesn't sound great, I think, if he's tweaking it in a way that'll, make it be constitutional, if he's pushing the boundaries, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I don't either. To be clear, I don't either. But that's what you're supposed to do. I'm not claiming that that presidents can never violate the Constitution, because every single one does. But what happens, and what is supposed to happen, is you do something that you think is kind of maybe on the edges of being legal, or maybe you completely believe that it is legal all the way. You're like, dude, what I'm doing is totally fine. You get sued over it. Eventually, SCOTUS hears it, and they tell you, no, you're wrong. It is very unconstitutional. And then you stop. You bring your actions in line with their ruling. And so whatever they said was unconstitutional about it, you change and you get in line with those parts of the decision, and then you can move forward from there. My argument is that's not what's happening. He'll just make a slight tweak that I don't know if he knows. This is how I'll phrase it. Because for one, he's not a lawyer. For two, I don't even think he's smart at all. So I don't know if he knows that his changes aren't bringing it in line with the Constitution. But I know for at a bare minimum, his fucking attorneys do. The OLC and then Pam Bondi, at a bare minimum, they do. And so if you want to ascribe malice, then maybe you could ascribe it to Pam Bondi instead. Be like, well, she's a fucking lawyer, and she's not a great lawyer, but she's not a terrible lawyer. She should know, and she does know. So if you want to say that someone's being malicious, then I guess it would be her. If you want to take the position that Trump doesn't, he's not a lawyer, so maybe he doesn't know. But yeah, what you said about if SCOTUS rules against you and you change your behavior to get in line with their ruling and what they said was unconstitutional, then that's fine. I agree. It would be. Yeah, totally.
Okay. I mean, I think I'm happy with where we are.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Have a good one. I wonder if he meant. Well, I know what he meant. He meant he's happy with what the Trump administration has done so far. I just want to. I want to get that point across to more people. Of people think when they hear me shit talking. Wait, what did he say? It's annoying, Brown. Nothing I said was a lie. I just didn't give it a second. How do you say Ray Garcia docket number? I'm not even commenting this. I'm even commenting this. He ignored it. Well, I was having a conversation with someone else. I just saw this. To be clear. All right, let's see. Which case is this? I don't know how many of you guys were in chat when I was talking to that guy. Druth. I don't know if you guys were in chat when I was talking to him, but what I asked him for was a case where Abrego Garcia was convicted of something. What are the odds that this is not a case where he was convicted of anything? There's no way. Wait, is this, am I looking at the right case right now? I am looking at the right case. Hold up. I'm totally looking at the right case right now. Hold on. Oh, this is about to be funny as fuck. It's about to be mad funny. So listen. Weren't you on Lib and Learn? No, I was never on Lib and Learn. I would love to be. I love Pisco and Josiah. But I've never been on Lib and Learn. I would love to be. Hold on, let me change my scene. So this is the case he linked me. This is the case he oh man, we're about to have a field day. This is the case he put in chat. Just to be clear, the case number he gave me, 97 TAC 20130. Okay, this is the case that he put in chat. Okay, now he's freaking out and he's trying to put a different case in chat. To be clear, he put this case in chat. Okay, just to be clear, he put this one in chat. United States versus Garcia Abrego. So already we're already gonna see a little issue. Case number 97 TAC 20130 from 1998. Abrego Garcia was born in 1995. So this is a drug trafficking case from when Abrego Garcia was 3 years old. To be clear. Okay. Looks like case to be he's got you there. Oh yeah, he must have got me. This is when Abrego Garcia was 3 years old. This is the case this is the case number, the docket number he gave me. Just to be clear that I'm completely telling the truth here. I don't know if you guys all saw it in chat. I'll go back and we'll find it. Up. Where'd it go? Right here. Here we go, guys. This is him in chat. Docket 97 TAC 20130. 97 TAC 20. This is the case he linked me. This is what he gave me. A drug trafficking case from when Abrego Garcia was 3 years old. Jesus Christ. This is why you need to be aware of what you're talking about before you try to come have conversations on topics with people. You need to already know. You know what I mean? It can't be that you're trying to research on the fly because then you do stupid shit like that. Could be the same guy. Yeah, he was fucking trafficking hella drugs when he was 3, bro. Hella. Jesus Christ. Okay. The fuck time is it? 5:40? Oh, Jesus. Hold on. I gotta check something real quick. I don't even think we have anybody in queue anyway, so this is kind of perfect. Let me see. Do we have guests? No guests. Okay. That's good. Where are we at? Oh, okay. Perfect. Almost home from work, based and lit. Okay, guys. We'll be back tomorrow. Druth, just get your thoughts together, do your research, get it together, compile it, make a little fucking doc or something. Make a little fucking notes document, and then come back tomorrow and we'll dig through it, okay? Just fucking spamming case numbers in chat when the first one you sent and I picked, you can't fumble that hard and then expect me to fucking sit here and double check all of your cases. If your first one would have been correct, maybe I might have entertained you if you were right the first time, but you can't fumble like that and then expect me to be just sit up here. You know what I mean? Anyone can lie. It's up to you whether you're gullible or have a firm spine. I mean, True and based. The second one he sent is from 1990. Jesus Christ, that's 5 years before Garcia was born. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. You get your shit together, actually read the fucking cases, and then maybe you can come back tomorrow if you want, and we'll rehash this. Okay. All right. Listen, if you're not following me, click the follow button. Come back tomorrow. We will be back tomorrow with another stream. I appreciate you guys being here. It was fun. Thanks for coming out. Yeah, that's it. We'll be back tomorrow. If you want to talk about something, any disagreements, we'll make it happen. Okay. Thanks, guys. Have a good one. Appreciate you. Enjoy the rest of your nights. Bye, 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 bye. See you later. Bye. See you later. Bye. See you later. Bye. Have a good one. Bye. All right. Twitch and YouTube. Thank you guys for being here. Jesus Christ. TikTok was wilding out today, bro. The TikTok people. My God. Could be the same guy as a fucking hilarious comment, by the way. Jesus Christ. Yeah, this was a wild one today. I have a fuckload of editing to do. I haven't posted a TikTok or like a YouTube video in a while, mainly because I've just been saving them up. I got a fucking huge backlog, so now I can schedule a bunch of shit out and then be daily uploading. I should be able to like daily upload for like a fucking year at this point, as long as I keep streaming.